Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We want to welcome everyone on this most auspicious 65th Avirbhav Tithi, the Appearance Day celebrations of our beloved Aindra Prabhu. It is on this very day of this particular month known as the Chaitra Mas, Krishna Paksha Dwadasi. I'm mentioning the Tithi precisely because sometimes there is some confusion. But it is this particular Tithi, Krishna Paksha Dwadasi of Chaitra Mas, that Aindra Prabhu appeared, as a very important, I would say, messenger or soldier of Lord Chaitanya, a messenger, a soldier of Harinam Sankirtan of Srila Prabhupada on this very day. Before we begin today's celebration, I want to just draw everyone's attention to very few things first. If there was an astrological chart reading done for Aindra Prabhu's Tithi and the particular place and time of birth, and it can be seen from his charts that it says that this particular person will have extreme detachment for the worldly life, will have extreme detachment for worldly life and a very, very strong attachment for devotion, for devotional service. So one should understand, one should try to see things deeply, that it is not just by chance. It is from the arrangement of the Lord. It is from previous lifetime that bhakti is coming. Great acharyas, they are not created. They are born with it. They are born with that love and attachment for Krishna and extreme detachment for this world. So acharyas are not created, they are born, and we can see from Aindra Prabhu's birth, his activities, that he is definitely, an empowered messenger of Srila Prabhupada, of Lord Chaitanya, of Lord Nityananda, who was amongst all of us, very, very dynamically spreading the transcendental chanting of Lord Krishna's holy names. See, I remember 2009, a couple of years before his entering the Nitya Leelas, nobody could even dare to wish him on his birthday because he just didn't, had this concept in his mind. He was living in another dimension, and as we hear from so many devotees, we will know what was his life and his living. But nobody would even dare to wish Aindra Prabhu on his birthday because he didn't like all this. But then gradually he became, a little bit more merciful and started accepting at least, a program like having kirtan and katha. So in 2009 when we assembled to celebrate his, his birthday, then Aindra Prabhu did kirtan, and when he was asked to speak, so he said, everyone says happy birthday, but he says, what's so happy about it? And then he said two things. He said, definitely, one thing is happy, that it is one more year closer in some lifetime to Shri Shri Radhe Shyam. He says it's one more year closer in attaining the transcendental loving services of Radhe Shyam. He says, I'm happy about that one more year gone. and maybe I'm one step more closer in attaining their loving devotional service. And he said, what's not happy about it is that I'm still limited in this material body, which restricts the flow, which restricts the offering of the loving devotional service that I so much want to render to Srimati Radhika Rani. And he says that is not so happy about it. See, we will share a couple of things as we go, but when I see all of devotees, His Holiness Pujya Shri Maharaj Ji ki Jai, we are so happy to have His Holiness Maharaj Ji with us. Maharaj, please come in front. Jai. We are so happy, Maharaj, that you are here. Please. So I would immediately want to request Maharaj to please share his heart with all of us. Maharaj, okay. Maharaj, you can offer pushpa.
If you would, then go.
Okay. As long as you say something. Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna. I'm going to be a little brief. I wasn't aware that today was Aindra Prabhu's birthday, but I was informed late last night. I'm here. So, from what I understand, Aindra Prabhu became a devotee in Washington, and he was exposed to the Harinam party, and he was so attracted to the Harinam party that he joined the temple in Washington, and then I believe he moved to New York, and he expanded the Harinam program in New York, and then I believe he came to Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada, one of the instructions Prabhupada gave us after we opened the temple in Ram Navami 75 was he wanted 24-hour kirtan. And at that time, even Mayapur didn't have 24-hour kirtan. So several devotees tried to organize that, but it failed. So I believe in 1986, Aindra Prabhu came to India, and one of his major achievements was he took this instruction of Prabhupada to heart, and he endeavored to organize the 24-hour kirtan. Am I right? Organized that in 86. And due to Aindra Prabhu's determination and hard work, the 24-hour kirtan program was not only successfully established, it's going on even after his departure. Even Aindra Prabhu put so much effort into it that this 24-hour program is now one of the major attractions of Vrindavan. When people come to Vrindavan, they talk about the beautiful deities we have and the 24-hour kirtan. These two have become landmarks of the Vrindavan temple, and we owe this to a great degree to Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu was a kirtan king in ISKCON. Well, his kirtans were very attractive, and he attracted the youth from the whole world to come and take part in kirtan. He was very fond of kirtan. He preached the importance of the holy name, and he set the example himself. My relationship with Aindra Prabhu was more in relationship to the Shilas that he worshipped. I was always fascinated by Aindra Prabhu's deity worship. I do have Shilas, but I have to admit that the inspiration for me to take to Shila worship came from Aindra Prabhu. I think so. So, some Shilas he gave me, I can't identify which ones they are now. But when Aindra Prabhu was here, usually whenever I would come to Vrindavan, I would always go and talk to him about the Shilas. I was just amazed at how many hours he spent on worship. How many hours did he spend? 4 or 5 hours, and sometimes he would be doing the puja in the evening and in the night, and he would remain hungry all day, isn't it? This reminds me of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri installed the Gopal deity, and all day he would take care of the deities, and then in the night, after putting the deities to sleep, he would take a little bit of milk. So Aindra Prabhu was very, very dedicated to his deities, and he established a high standard of deity worship, and I learned a lot about Shila worship from Aindra Prabhu. So I've come here to offer my respects to Aindra Prabhu, who's a dear friend of mine. He played a big role in preaching at the Krishna Balaram temple. We preach with the holy name, we preach with deity worship, we preach with book distribution, and the Krishna Balaram temple kirtans were very famous all over the world, mainly because of Aindra Prabhu's efforts. And he trained up a good group of devotees who are now carrying on the work after him. So Aindra Prabhu was a very nice devotee, very attached to the holy name, attached to worship of the deities. He used to regularly worship Radha Shyam Sundar, and he played a big role in training up kirtaniers and in propagating the importance of chanting the holy names of the Lord. So we should take inspiration from Aindra Prabhu's dedication. He emphasized the importance of the holy name, and we should chant the holy name, and as well as through the medium of Harinam and Kirtan, spread the glories of the holy name. And just like Aindra Prabhu was very serious about deity worship, we should also be serious. And he was a good inspiration for the youth of ISKCON. So we hope that the youth of ISKCON and others can get attached to the holy name like Aindra Prabhu was, and work hard to spread the glories of the holy name. Hare Krishna. Aindra Prabhu ki.
Thank you so much, Maharaji. We are also blessed. We are also blessed to have your darshan and your presence, and certainly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In fact, someone had once forwarded me an offering that His Holiness Maharaj gave in Russia once as an offering to Sripad Aindra Prabhu. It's about a 25-minute talk that Maharaj gave once, I think, in Russia. When, Maharaji? that is Maharaji is mentioning, that is at the Black Sea Festival. And Maharaji, I want to take this opportunity to say that is one of the best offerings I've ever heard about Aindra Prabhu. And if devotees hear it, there is so much we all can gain from your relation and your addressing everyone. Yes, Maharaji. Thank you so much, Maharaji. Great devotees are so kind, and Maharaj is speaking in great length about, his relation with Aindra Prabhu, and at the same time he's addressing the entire ISKCON community to take inspiration from His Grace Aindra Prabhu and take to heart the congregational chanting of Lord Krishna's holy name. Not taking any time further, I would like to request first one or two devotees just to let you know how the sequence of this program today will be. We have a short video to show about Aindra Prabhu, and then there is a glorification by many of us here. After that, around 1:30 will be Pushpanjali, 1:30 or 2 o'clock will be Pushpanjali offering, Arati, and then there is Prasad for everyone. But before we show the video, we would like to request one or two devotees to give their offering, and then maybe after half an hour or so, we will see that also. So first of all, I would like to request His Grace Ram Roy Prabhu. Okay, Ram Roy Prabhu says we should ask Prabhupada disciple, His Holiness Bhanubhatta Prabhu. Please, so let us hear from you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Yes, you can be comfortable here. Would you be comfortable to hold the mic or put a stand for you?
I can hold it. Actually, maybe a stand will be better. Vanchikapaturubhyascha kripasinnivedvacha patitanam bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So I wanted to read this amazing interview that Satyaraj Prabhu interviewed Aindra in the beginning of 2010. And I thought it's especially important because, it's wonderful, of course, hearing the devotees' personal experiences with Aindra Prabhu. This is in Aindra Prabhu's own words about how he came to Krishna consciousness, what inspired him in the chanting, some amazing visions he had, one in particular after only being in the movement just a week. And I don't know... can I see a show of hands of devotees who have actually read this? So a few have read it, but it's quite amazing. It's also very lengthy, so please bear with me. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read what I think kind of the most important parts. So Aindra Prabhu grew up on a farm in Virginia, about 60 miles from the Washington, D.C. temple. He describes his parents as hippies. His father was cultivating marijuana. He was a musician. His mother was an artist. And he says that a banjo was first put into his hands when he was 5 years old. He grew up playing different kinds of instruments and music, played in a rock and roll band, and first started running into the devotees in the early 70s, receiving Back to Godhead magazine, Isopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and eventually joining the DC temple in late 1972. So he was living with his father on his father's farm, and he just received japa beads and a Bhagavad Gita from the temple. he also mentioned at this time he had already become renounced, just like Hare Krishna Prabhu was explaining how he was so renounced even from the beginning. And he explained that at this stage of his life, his diet consisted of eating 3 figs every day. So this is Aindra Prabhu's own words. So he says, anyway, that night when we discussed the Gita, my father soon went to bed, and I just started chanting on my japa beads, and I closed my eyes. It was like maybe 10 p.m. at night, and I started chanting. And when I finally finished 16 rounds, I opened my eyes. I didn't sleep the whole time. I was just completely mesmerized. I was really impressed, amazed, because when I opened my eyes, it was already daylight. Time passed without my knowing it. It was a dramatic experience for me. So at that point, I felt like I'd gained a profound experience of what it meant to surrender to the instructions of the spiritual master, to complete a minimum of 16 rounds. It was the first time in this lifetime that I chanted 16 rounds. I liked it. So at that point, I made my decision that it was time for me to join the temple. So when he joined the temple, he says that he and the devotees were doing 14 hours of kirtan every day in the street. And after 1 week of that, this is an amazing vision that he had. Aindra says, I remember Prabhupada saying that if you read Krishna book about 15 minutes before taking rest, you would dream about Krishna. Well, I had an amazing experience at that time. I didn't share it with anyone because I was afraid. I didn't think people would believe my experience anyway. Even now, I think it's maybe too subtle for some devotees to grasp, but I had an incredible experience. So he says, we all lie down to take rest. Everyone had fallen asleep, and I was starting to drift off. But I was still in that in-between state, not quite dreaming. In fact, my eyes were still open, and suddenly I hear an amazing sound. I couldn't understand what the sound was. It was really incredible, otherworldly, and it was coming from a distance. It was like some other dimensional sound, not from here, unlike anything I'd ever heard before. It was completely transcendental, but I couldn't understand what it was. Still, it was clear that it was getting closer and closer. Then I started seeing another dimension, a subtle existence, which was above me. I was lying on the floor, as all the other brahmacharis were, and I started seeing a sort of multi-dimensional reality. It was like looking at a beautiful painting of some sort coming to life, moving right in front of me. And then Satyaraj asked, what was its content? Aindra Prabhu, it was a stampede coming from a distance. Unclear at first, but definitely a stampede. I couldn't recognize exactly what it was. And I couldn't recognize what I was hearing, which was happening simultaneously until it started getting closer and closer. When it did get closer, I started hearing the trampling of feet and hooves and ankle bells and laughing and incredible blissful merriment. And buffalo horn bugles were blowing too, and flute playing. That was a sound. Boys and cows and all kinds of beings were running and playing. It was intense. And then, as they were getting closer, I could see clearly that they were all running, joyfully running, as if they were running to Nandagram. And there was Krishna and Balaram. There they were in the midst of it all. But they were all running on glass, about maybe 4 feet above me. This is hard to explain. There was like a plate of glass, see-through, and I was able to watch it through the glass as they ran above me. I was seeing it clearly, and they were coming closer and closer. Then, when they were above me, I was actually seeing the bottoms of their feet, as if they were running on glass. And as they are coming closer and closer, I notice Krishna is playing his flute, and I'm hearing this. Anyway, after a week's time, I'm lying down to take rest, and here I am. I was actually seeing Krishna with my eyes wide open. Krishna, after a week of performing Nam Sankirtan 14 hours a day with the devotees. It was Krishna and Balaram in a stampede of cowherd boys and cows. They were running and so happy, and the sound was incredibly blissful. That's how potent Nam Sankirtan is. So then he goes on. The description is quite long. I'll move on from here. After doing Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution every day, he tells about there was one pastime where he mentioned how the authorities wanted him to get married. So Aindra Prabhu says, well, soon after that, a new temple president came on the scene. And for some reason, he was interested in seeing most of the devotees getting married. I remember he called me into his office and said, Aindra, I think you really need a wife. And of course, my mind riveted to my life prior to joining the Krishna consciousness movement, when my wife was hanging onto my ankles crying, please don't go back to Godhead. I'm not finished enjoying you yet. That was really a distasteful episode for me. And so at that time, I resolved I would never again enter into that kind of relationship. In other words, when I joined the movement, I had already understood the importance of sannyas. I already valued the principle of renunciation, seeing it as more advantageous for making rapid spiritual progress. So I more or less vowed from that point not to ever marry again. I told this to the new temple president, who just ignored me and repeated, Aindra, I think you need a wife. So I basically told him where to go. I already have 11 wives, I told him, and I can't even control them. So what am I going to do with another one? So then Aindra Prabhu mentions he started getting into book distribution. And at one point he was distributing, he says, between 250 and 400 back to Godheads a day. That's a lot of back to Godheads. And along with about 20 big books. And then he talks about here there was a push for doubling and redoubling book distribution in 1976 and 77. He says it was intense. It has its spiritual values, sharing knowledge, pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. It's all true. So I joined Triple I's bus and I was regularly doing book distribution. And then they started propagating a philosophy just to keep people involved with the book distribution push, which they called Brihat Kirtan. And I also accepted that, at least in principle. But then, Shrudidev started the Sankirtan newsletter, and the 19th issue came out. Shrudidev called me into his office and said, Aindra, you got to see this. And he showed me a letter that he just received from Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada says, I've received your 19th Sankirtan newsletter, and I'm pleased to hear about your Sankirtan and book distribution results. Then he goes on to explain how Harinam Sankirtan is the basis of our Krishna consciousness movement. And therefore, I want this Sankirtan, which means Harinam Sankirtan, and book distribution must go on side by side. So I was always under the impression that Prabhupada never wanted to push book distribution to the exclusion of holy name Sankirtan, as he calls it, which is basically what started happening. So then he talked about his how their van leader had them going out to the parking lots distributing books, and then there was a Harinam Sankirtan going out on Saturday night to Georgetown. And he says, for old time's sake, I wanted to join, just for inspiration's sake. And my van leader started telling me that if I stopped my book distribution and went out on Harinam Sankirtan, then I would be engaged in V-karma. Action that was against authority, as if the Vedic authority was coming through the chain of command to him, and he was not ordaining my joining this Harinam Sankirtan party. Well, it was at that point that I started to think, this is a lot of BS. That is when I began having differences with certain managerial points of view. That was in 1976, and then Prabhupada left in 1977. I started seeing discrepancies in Minnesota, ended up in Chicago, And he said that's where the bus party collapsed. He says, mind you, I continued to respect all these people as devotees, but my point of view started to change drastically. We had a difference of opinion, big time. So, because of Aindra Prabhu's interest in Harinam Sankirtan, he wasn't much appreciated by temple authorities, and he finally, the opportunity arose to came to Vrindavan in 1981. And Aindra Prabhu says, I went to Vrindavan, staying there for 3 months or more, doing Pujari service, and coming out, and so this is, 1981, and coming out and just sitting in the temple, doing like 8 hours of kirtan, alone, no help, no fixed help. I just grabbed any Baba who came in the door, whoever it was, and started doing kirtan. Then at a certain point, I didn't get along very well with Omkara, the temple president at the time, so I decided to go back to America, and he thought, I'll start a traveling Harinam Sankirtan program. So then this is New York. Aindra Prabhu continues, that's when I came back to America, and my first stop was New York. Seeing the situation in New York, the huge potential, I realized, what's the need to travel anywhere? It's like New York never sleeps. It's like a fair, 24 hours, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. No need to go anywhere else. So I made a little portable stage and started going out to various spots. Anyway, this was in 83. And for the movable kirtan truck project, I came back to India, went to Vrindavan, Mayapur, Bhubaneswar, Jagannath Puri, far and wide, and got many different colored cloths, canopies, and elaborate festival umbrellas, all kind of paraphernalia. I went all out to make it beautifully decorative. This was for my stage at 7th Avenue in New York. I constructed this box van that opened into a temple. Some of you may have seen that decorative temple. And at that time I was getting sound permits because I befriended the police. And I was going out every day for 8, 10, 12 hours, no less. On Saturdays, every Saturday, I would be going on Nam Sankirtan for 15 hours. He said we would go to Queens for 6 hours, then we would pack up our program and go to West 4th Street in West Village, and we would stay there all night long until about 3:30 a.m. in the morning. It would take 20 minutes to pack up, and then we would roll in from Mangal Artik. I tell you, it was great. It was full-on kirtan in New York City for 5 years. I was doing that for no less 8 hours a day for 5 years. Then back to Vrindavan. Well, long story short, I wasn't getting the cooperation that I needed, and I ended up butting heads with the management to have my space, to do my thing. And at a certain point, ISKCON began having its most serious difficulties, gurus falling down, stuff like that. By 1986, Lord Chaitanya's 500th anniversary, I decided that it's time for me to make my move, and I just kind of dumped my program in New York. It was a good program. We made a few devotees, many devotees actually, attracting people to come and join the movement. But after they joined, they would be siphoned off from the program, the chanting that attracted them, and be put on the pick or anything else. And so I could never reinforce my program. It was unfortunate. So for this and many other reasons, in 1986, I decided to shift permanently to Vrindavan. So here's the thing. In 81, 83, and 86, when I visited Vrindavan, I noticed that there was no 24-hour kirtan going on. And I knew that Srila Prabhupada wanted 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan. So when I came in March of 86, I realized that my way of doing 24-hour kirtan was perfectly in accord with Prabhupada's system. Fact is, he was trying to get them to do it that way, but they refused to surrender to it, which is why the whole thing fell apart shortly after Prabhupada left. And then the interviewer asked, you followed your guru's order. You were doing it according to his mood. Aindra Prabhu. Well, at the time, I didn't know it was my guru's order. It was just a common sense thing. You needed a core group of people to do it and to make shifts. So I had 9 devotees or so by the time Kartik began. And we grew from there. With the encouragement of many devotees, I decided that we would again attempt to commence Prabhupada's 24-hour kirtan. And we've been doing 24-hour kirtan there ever since. So right from there we started in 1986, and from then on I was doing 8 hours kirtan minimum daily, personally without any help, when I first came in 86. Anyway, I would set up my paraphernalia around me and just invite people over when they came into the temple. And that was how it started. And then pretty soon we got a group together. People started taking interest, and I was encouraged to start 24-hour kirtan. And the interviewer says, well, the rest is history. Aindra Prabhu, yeah. And then interviewer says, and now you've become a legend, Aindra Prabhu. Aindra Prabhu. That's the truth. There's that story in Krishna book, he says. Prabhupada describes how the gopis gave up everything, and how Krishna was praising the gopis, saying, I know what kind of devotees you are, that you've left your families, you've left everything, not considering anything other than searching for me. So I cannot give you up. This was when Krishna disappeared from the gopis, and he returned to them before commencing the Rasa Leela. So I understood the lesson here, that following in the footsteps of the gopis means to renounce everything to search for Krishna, to satisfy Krishna. So when I came to Vrindavan in 86, I decided that I would not turn back. I left my family, I left everything. Maybe he reciprocated with me. Maybe that's what happened. I think probably running out of time, right?
We can read maybe some portions and
Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here. It's an amazing story he tells about how his father passed away, and then he gives just a few paragraphs on the importance of Harinam Sankirtan. Shri Aindra Prabhu Avirbhav Bahotsav Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Bhanubhata Prabhu. And of course, there is so much more nectar in this particular interview that Aindra Prabhu had. And he is sharing so much more about his life and experience. And if time permits, we will hear more from that. Now I would like to request His Grace Ram Roy Prabhu to please share his offering with all of us. Ram Roy Prabhu does not require any introduction. He has been a very close associate of Aindra Prabhu, and practically from the very beginning of his Krishna conscious life, he's had Aindra Prabhu's association way back from US, and then he kind of followed him to Vrindavan. Thank you. Ram Roy Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna. We describe the spiritual master likened unto be a ocean of auspicious qualities. Aindra Prabhu, as a pure devotee, had many different facets to him. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj was describing the main ones. Remember one time a devotee was questioning Aindra, that you're so exemplary, extraordinary, both quantitatively and qualitatively in performance of Harinam Sankirtan. So why are you so intense about the other angas of bhakti? Aindra Prabhu was a great exemplar of sadhu sangha. He himself was giving so much sangha. This is one quality of Aindra that I find so endearing. I'm just like 5 or 6 years younger than him, both materially and spiritually. So he treated me kind of like a brother, younger brother, and would spend many, many hours of the day with him doing all kinds of things. He would ask me advice. But clearly, Aindra Prabhu's spiritual stature was so rare and unique, yet I had that friendship. We were just hearing in the Bhagavatam that the brahmachari must live in the Gurukul, the place of the spiritual master, in an attitude of firm friendship. Srila Prabhupada described Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur as my ever well-wisher, guide, and friend. So Aindra Prabhu was giving that very unique and most desirable gift of impeccable and perfect Vedic authority. The words of the spiritual master, Sakshat Advaita, are the words of Krishna, and with great love and friendship. And from my experience in this world, that's a very rare thing to find. Aindra Prabhu always maintained Tulsi Maharani for the worship of his deities. Before technology had advanced, where you can get grow lights and have them brought to India, he would always be trying to do one thing or the other. He always wanted to personally cultivate Tulsi Devi to be engaged in the service of his deities, and of course his own deity worship. Aindra revealed to me that, Indradyumna Swami is just outside. If somebody can go out there right now and say we're doing this, maybe if he would like to come and say something. Maybe you should go. That's good. That one should hear the Shastras. So Aindra Prabhu, he gradually increased his deity worship to the point where he was having to do it 4 or 5 hours a day, and he wouldn't want any help. Maybe somebody would beg, and he would allow them to go and buy boga. But that would be it. Many times Aindra himself could be seen going to buy boga for his deities. And so he would have devotees read various shastras to him, and one service he commissioned me to do was to read different Vaishnav literatures, especially some of the most revelatory and authorized literatures describing the Leelas of their lordships in Vrindavan, and he would listen to them repeatedly every day for many hours a day, and he became very, very expert in all of the statements of the acharyas in those books, and with his own qualified and earned adhikar realization, he would explain these things very beautifully to whoever would come in the room. And what to speak of his own deity worship, he was worshiping Radha Shama Sundar very, very intensely throughout the years. One of the years that I came here in 1990, it's a very beautiful year. I spent maybe 4 months here, and he was taking care of Radha Shama Sundar, their dressing, at least 5 days a week, if not every single day, the day dressing. Then he would go out and do so much kirtan in the temple room, 8-10 hours a day. That was the time when Vibhu Chaitanya was still physically fit, and he was making all of the boga offerings. Very nice. So Aindra said to that devotee, because I'm so fallen that I want to make sure that I cover all my bases, and I want to do all panch angas of bhakti to the greatest extent that I can. So Bhanubhata Prabhu was giving a little synopsis of Aindra Prabhu's devotional biography, and I joined New York Temple, 55th Street, just after Prabhupada's departure in 1978, and unfortunate turn of events was that the temple was sold and we were downgraded to a very small, from an 11-story building to a 3-story building that wasn't even fit to live in, and the fire department came and condemned us staying there. That's a whole history. But Aindra Prabhu appeared there just like 2 months after we made that move in the spring of 1981, and in another place, he was seeing how he said how seeing Harinam Sankirtan, at least in North America, ground to a halt. He said, "The buck stops here with Aindra Das. I'm going to go out and do it. If anybody comes to join me, Gora Hallelujah. If nobody comes to join me, Gora Hallelujah. It's all the Lord's mercy." So this temple on 7th Avenue was actually in a fabulous location. It was just north of the Times Square Theater District, and it's like a little bit like on a hill, and we would just take the things out and roll them down the hill and be right in Times Square. And then one thing led to the other in that boxcar truck temple that came in 1983. And at that time, Back to Godhead magazine was being marginalized by the BBT who was producing it. The question, is this for devotees? Is it for the general public? How can we make it for both? And they were producing books like Chant and Be Happy, Higher Taste, Coming Back, Vedic Contemporary Library Series. So we formed a Back to Godhead magazine collecting party just exclusively to fund Back to Godhead magazine. And ourselves and those devotees in that group and Aindra became very strong friends because of our mutual revolutionary missions. And of course, the first recipient of all the Back to Godhead magazines that we're paying for were Aindra. As many as you could digest, as many as you can distribute, we were giving him for free. So anyway, when Aindra, I remember one cold December day in Columbus Circle, 59th Street, when he announced that I'm leaving and I'm going to Vrindavan, going to India, I was just like shocked. I couldn't really comprehend. But then he invited me, "You just come be with me." So at that point, I made a determined vow that I would go every year without fail and spend 2 or 3 months in India. And my relationship with Aindra grew and grew over the years. There's 2 devotee associates of mine, they're real New Yorkers. One became a New York City bus driver, but they hadn't seen Aindra in 20 years. They came here in 2006, and they said, "Aindra Prabhu, what happened to you, man? You became a pure devotee. What's up with that?" So in other words, you were saying an acharya is an acharya from his appearance. It's not that he becomes, but at the same time, the unfurling of the lotus or the revealing of the actual stature, so that more than just very deep confidential persons can understand, that people in general, that's Krishna's Leela to reveal that more and more. So, and also to show an example of how to live one's life. Like the first volume of the Leela Amrita is called A Lifetime in Preparation, and it shows His Divine Grace's real struggle, in really heavy individual and collective events of this world. The departure of his spiritual master, which actually this is the 100th anniversary year of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's taking sannyas and founding of the Gaudiya Math in Gaurapani in 1918. Hare Krishna. His spiritual World War II, the partition of India into Pakistan, the rapid industrialization and so-called modernization of India, and the people in general being led by government leaders to think that their religious sentiments are holding back the progress of the country, and his family's not cooperating, poverty, obscurity, impending old age, and Prabhupada finally coming at the age of 69, and not in good health, and not on an airplane, but on a freight boat, and not knowing what was waiting for him, and landing in New York in a very difficult. New York City, Manhattan at that time, especially where Prabhupada was living, was extremely economically devastated and depressed. All of the so-called well-to-do people had went to settle out in the suburbs, and what was left in the city were just like, it was heavy. But anyway, we know the story. One thing led to the other, and Krishna made Prabhupada extremely successful. And we could see what type of extraordinary personality Srila Prabhupada was. So it was a joy and a wonder to behold Aindra's ascension to the topmost level of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, and all along to be kept with him, as his friend and associate. So I was just hearing Aindra Prabhu's address to the disciples of Gaur Govinda Maharaj 1 year after Gaur Govinda Maharaj departed on his appearance day here in this Balaram Hall, which at that time had not been converted, in September 1997. And he was saying that lava mantra, even 1/11th of a second of a pure devotee, is enough to ensure one's complete perfection. That if you take his instructions to heart and try to execute them, everything will be there. And that the ultimate teaching and blessing of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is service in separation, that mood of separation. The feeling of separation from Krishna and his associates and from the pure devotee, acharyas, is one and the same. Prabhupada said of himself, I never felt alone. I came to your country, to America, alone, but I never felt alone because I always felt the presence of he, my spiritual master. So, and Prabhupada has taught the secret of success, dedicating oneself to fulfilling the order and the desire of the spiritual master is tantamount to directly seeing and serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I had that experience of Aindra Prabhu Harinam Sankirtan in New York City. It was super ecstatic, as we were hearing. And I'm from New York, so it's a very easy guna and karma of me to adopt. I can play the games of chutes and ladders in the 463 subway station of New York. I know where to stand, where the door will open, and what escalator and elevator, and if this train is broken, how to readjust. So, chutes and ladders. So, when Aindra left in 2010, a very, very devastating experience. Practically speaking, we all became orphans without our father. And one thing I'll say, Aindra Prabhu is most qualified acharya, but he wasn't so designated with such title, or that Aindra was very firm that I am not going to give proper initiation to anyone. But the real initiation is an affair of the heart. That the words of a pure devotee inculcate love of Godhead in the heart of a receptive hearer. That in and of itself is initiation. Vaikuntanath, one of the early disciples of Srila Prabhupada, he joined in New York in 1968. He had a wonderful wife, Saradiya Devi Dasi, who actually departed on Saradiya Ras Purnim last October. Very nice. She was an artist, a very pioneering devotee. She was only 16 years old when she joined. So anyway, they, amongst many things, they were here for Prabhupada's Kartik 1972 Nectar Devotion. And coming back from the short distance, Rupa Goswami Samadhi, to his quarters there in the temple, he had a question for Srila Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, you're telling us that we have to, that unless one is initiated by a pure devotee, then one can't go back to Godhead, or one can fall down from the human life and become an animal or worse, and we're distributing so many books, but they're not initiated. He had this, and Prabhupada just looked back at him right in the eye and said, when they get my books and even read one sentence, they are initiated. So, Jai Srila Prabhupada. So, there is a level of maturity, a much higher level of maturity that is required for those of us who've been touched and affected by the words of such an extraordinary personality as Aindra Prabhu to, like Prabhupada said, your love for me will be showed how well you cooperate together, how well you keep this institution together after I'm gone. So, Aindra's mission was, as he said in Varshanadam 2009, please remember, and I beseech you again and again, worldwide grassroots Harinam Sankirtan revolution. Revolution means we have to turn this movement inside out, upside down, whatever it takes to put Harinam Sankirtan back into its rightful place of dignity in the forefront of this movement. It's absolutely essential for the proper growth of this movement, otherwise you get what is called a deformed child. You have to feed the child a proper diet and proper nourishment, proper frequency. Not a couple of schnick rom-roms on the side. That's not going to get you back home, back to Godhead. It might take you 700 lifetimes to get back home, back to Godhead in this way. In Kali Yuga, you got to get fired up. Every one of you chanting, dancing from the heart like you really mean it. That you can even think, that you can even hope to go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. It's not a joke. It's the real thing. Do Harinam Sankirtan every day on the streets of all the major cities of the world for as many hours a day, and you will get there, back home, back to Godhead. I guarantee it. Not that I guarantee it. Lord Chaitanya and Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas guarantee it. It's the right thing to do. So, Aindra Prabhu left, and I was myself kind of thrust against my will into directorial position here up until the time of Aindra's first disappearance anniversary in July of 2011. It was a very heavy year. We should always be very, very kind and sympathetic to our contemporaries, especially when the loss of such a great personality occurs, because it takes a long, long time. Even Narottam Das Thakur expresses, your separation is like a dose of strong poison, and I will suffer to the end of my life. So we express our grief in different ways. And many times when we're immature in our devotional service, we'll take out our feeling of anguish or even frustration on those who are in a position to help and sympathize with us the most, others who are going through the same thing. So as Prabhupada, I've given you my books, I've given you my movement, I've given you my devotees. Just very briefly, my mother, she died at the age of 41 in 1973. I was only 14 years old. Just the previous year in 1972, she was a very liberal-minded person. She was an artist. She was a writer. She took me to see the rock musical Hair. And Prabhupada, I just found this out by listening to the Siddhanta Prabhupada Memory Series. One devotee said that Prabhupada was meeting many people in his room at 26 2nd Avenue, and one was a hippie playwright, and Prabhupada told him that you should put the chanting of Hare Krishna in your play. And that's why the Hair musical has Hare Krishna in it. And, that if one follows the instruction of the expert, the apprentice, even if he's not expert and he does it properly, then that turning of the screw is naturally free from all the imperfections. So that very much moved me. A bunch of anyway, hippies chanting Hare Krishna. And my mother left. She died of cancer the next year. And she was a very strong woman, and she withheld the fact from us. I had two younger sisters that she was going to die. And then my father presented to me a letter after she died. And it said, how I'm leaving you with a loving family. Don't turn your back on them. So those of us who've had the association of Aindra, it's very, very personal and unique for all of us, but we're actually real God brothers and God sisters. And anyone who has been touched or marked by Aindra Prabhu is a very sacred person. And we should help each other. We should be charitably disposed, and we should be very careful not to let false ego or desire for name, fame, profit, adoration, and distinction ruin that. One of the points that Aindra was very, very deeply realized on, which is actually something that is very, very deep and might take a long time to realize, that Brajbasis are never selfish. And this idea that going out and preaching, this is the real thing, but being in Vrindavan, that's for your own cultivation. And Aindra would say no. Like the Goswamis, they came to Vrindavan for the benefit of all human beings. Loka namate karano tribhuvane manyo saranyakaro. So that if you live in Vrindavan for the benefit of others, from my own experience, I returned to New York. I wasn't able to come back to Vrindavan to continue that service as being director, co-director to 24-hour Kirtan in September 2011. I needed some time to sojourn and commune, and I found that my heart was solaced. I didn't think or premeditate to perform the service of resurrecting daily New York City Harinam. It just kind of happened by circumstance, and I just felt a proper vehicle for all of my feelings and all of my abilities and all of my strengths to be engaged in that way. And I feel some profound sense of relief in the separation from my dearmost friend and well-wisher. So I would encourage everyone to perform public Harinam Sankirtan, especially in places where people are the least fortunate. It's not that people coming to Vrindavan don't need to be made more fortunate. Where our job is not done until everyone is just like, Gopakumar becomes Sarupa again, and Krishna is embracing him. Welcome back home. I missed you so much. Then our job is done. I wish that all good-hearted members of Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed hundreds of gallons of blood for the spiritual corpus in each and every person on this planet. And when you do Harinam Sankirtan in the Kali Yuga affected, the people under the modes of material nature, you're not going to get name, you're not going to get fame, you're not going to get profit, you're not going to be adored, you're not going to be distinction. In a lot of places you're going to get the opposite. But we're actually not there to please the masses. We're there to please the senses of the Yagnapurush, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada took the devotees back in Boston, May 1968, to the pier where he landed. And on the waterfront was a sign, unalloyed steel. And Prabhupada said, they have unalloyed steel, but we have unalloyed devotion. Said, if a pack of asses says that you're good, what is that? We want a certificate from Krishna that this man has done something for me. If Krishna sees that we're very sincere, he'll give us everything. Niranjana Swami was giving a story on Prabhupada's arrival at one of the Russian or Ukrainian festivals last summer. Prabhupada came back to Calcutta in his triumph in 1970 with his dancing white elephant Western disciples, and one old childhood youthful friend met him, very jovial, and Prabhupada was told that there's a yogi in Calcutta who can produce an apple from behind your ear. And Prabhupada going along with it, yeah, very wonderful, that's very, very good. Just like I went to America, I had no money, simply a trunk of my Bhagavatams, a bag of cereal, and a pair of cartels. I had no support, I had no references. I simply sat down under a tree in Tompkinson Square Park, and I just started chanting Hare Krishna. And some very nice boys and girls joined me. And they wanted to chant Hare Krishna and learn about Krishna. And we started a center. And then some of those nice boys and girls said that we should even start one in San Francisco because there's a much bigger youth renaissance going on over there than New York. And then we had grand success there, and then some of those boys and girls said that we should start a center in London. And now we have centers in London, Hamburg, Los Angeles, Santa Fe, Boston, Montreal, and in just 4 years, we have 54 centers. Here's the punchline. And in each of these centers, we have so many apples. Hari Bol. So Kali Kalir Dham Nam Rup Avatar, and even more importantly, Paritranaya Sadhunam. Krishna's not so much coming to suppress the demons. Kali Yuga and all this Ugra Karma, we're hearing in classes, recent Bhagavatam, that atheism is on the rise more and more. I was talking to one of our American book distributors, Brajanandan Prabhu. He travels in vans all year to music festivals and colleges, and he says that atheism is growing like a cancer. The real thing is Krishna comes to rescue the devotees. Prabhupada said there are many candidates waiting to receive this message. All you have to do and go out as it is. They just put an article about New York Harinam and Dandavats. I wasn't interviewed or consulted. I wish that I had been. But the headline said, old school method of presenting Krishna consciousness. Like old school, like what, it went out with the hoop skirt, or it's outmoded and, against all logic and all intelligence, we're trying this, we should make people dress like they did 100 years ago or something? Are we going to preach in all these different ways? Prime benediction for humanity at large, the method personally selected and demonstrated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how Bhanu Bhatta brought forth this letter from the 19th Sankirtan newsletter, and Aindra was firm on that he never wanted Harinam Sankirtan and to be minimized. To say that it is Brihad Kirtan doesn't mean that it is greater Kirtan. It means the efficacy is greater. But Vidyavado Jivanam, the book is an expansion of the name. And we're giving out the book to convince people to join Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, in Aindra's own words, so that they can take part in the life and soul of all transcendental knowledge that they've been directed to by reading the book. And if they come forward and they see there's no ecstatic chanting and dancing, life and soul of all transcendental knowledge, and this Harinam Sankirtan is the source of all forms of devotional service. It's Prema Dharma. How are we going to have Varnashram Dharma? First we have Prema Dharma. Lord Chaitanya rejected to Ramananda Roy, Varnashram. Go higher. Lord Chaitanya's methods were completely spiritual, coming from Goloka Vrindavan. So, especially initiated devotees coming in line from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must perform Harinam Sankirtan. What to speak of for the benefit of others, for the benefit of your own soul. Like Aindra Prabhu said, I'm nobody special. I'm just as fallen as everybody else. But enough Sumedasa has entered into my brain to realize that this is Kali Yuga, and I'm a fallen Kali Yuga creature, and I must take advantage of the Dharma that's been ordained by Lord Chaitanya. There's no other Dharma for anyone else. Only one Dharma, Sankirtan Dharma. I put the two together, and I have the experience of doing Harinam Sankirtan every day for no less than 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. I have that experience under my belt, so I have the right to say what I know is right. You do that too, and see what happens to you. Just like my friend, man, Aindra, what happened to you, bro? You became a pure devotee. What's up with that? For your own self, and you'll cultivate a real mood. 3 things. Vaishnav Seva. And ultimate Vaishnav Seva means to fulfill the desire of the Acharyas. My spiritual master, Prabhupada said, wanted to preach. We believed in his words, and we started in a humble way, in a helpless way, but this movement has become successful due to the force of the spiritual order. That's real Vaishnav Seva. And within that, Jiva Doya. If you're all thankful for what I've given you, give it to others. And what could be a better way to give the full gift, the fully ripened fruit of Prema Bhakti by chanting on the platform of Shuddha Prema Nam. It's not Lord Chaitanya's Nam Abbas, Bhakti Bimba Abbas, or Nam Aparad Sankirtan movement. It's Lord Chaitanya's Shuddha Prema Nam Sankirtan movement. And by practicing in this way diligently, you will be blessed to come to this stage in the humble, always clear mood in your mind that I'm simply, by the mercy of my spiritual master, trying to please him. Otherwise, I'm just a dog. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, I will just be a dog at the threshold of the house of the pure devotee. When he calls me, I will dance in rapture, and I will keep those inimical away from him. Just be the dog. Prabhupada said, my spiritual master is the gold. I am just simply the glitter. Give all credit to the predecessor acharyas. We are nothing. That is the secret to success. Then Namruchi, real Namruchi. So the best way, in conclusion, in my humble feeling, to honor Aindra Prabhu, to cultivate a relationship with him. Who here has never met Aindra? Please raise their hand. Okay, you are not in any way disqualified or handicapped, that's for sure. Like, I never met Prabhupada personally, okay? But everything that I'm doing, we're broad-minded. We want to please all the devotees, but I feel very strong in my relationship with Prabhupada, and I feel it growing and enhancing. And as another point, Aindra always championed staying within the guidance of Srila Prabhupada. He gave all credit to his advanced realization to Srila Prabhupada, giving him incremental further instructions in various ways through the year, although he only received one instruction from Srila Prabhupada in the form of a one-word, 4-letter word, Jai, to his attempt to perform Harinam Sankirtan. That being said, at the same time, Aindra was extremely respectful and understanding of all other expressions of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, especially within our Saraswat line, because we're all coming in line from His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. That we get out there and do it and spread Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. I'm in New York. I have a very easy time of it. We're protected by the First Amendment, freedom of rights and religion. We have a big subway system where there's at least 6 places down there where I can accommodate a group of 8 to 20 people, and so many other places where only 3 or 5 can go. So I can keep a 365-day-a-year thing going. But if you don't have that, at least seasonally, in the warm weather, keep it going, whatever works. You know, if you're in a place where you can't sit down, you got to keep moving, then do moving Sankirtan. But if you can be in a nice place, a park or some place in the city where there's a lot of tourists coming. New York is like a pedestrian city, so sitting in one place is the same as traveling all over the world. You know, people from all over the world are walking right by you, so you get the same credit as being a Parivachakacharya. Utility is a principle, but whatever works. The more people get the holy name, and we have book distributors, and I was mentioning this one devotee, and they're doing book distribution at the college campus or at the music festival where the Sweeties are, and they call the city the grind. But from the Harinam, I've had actually 5 devotees join me, fresh, from nothing. And now one of them, just by doing 6 hours of book distribution with the Harinam, is number 4 in the United States. Because he loves it. And I tell, go over somewhere else, and he says, no, I want to be by the Harinam. It's just very easy reference. And in devotee and shaved head and devotional clothes. Because people get it. You'd be surprised. Krishna is the holy name, and Krishna is going to give so much mercy to all the people when they come in contact him with this most merciful incarnation. So let that be my offering to Sripad Aindra Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I have some website cards I'll put here if anybody wants to take one, but otherwise just simply NYC Harinam, which is directly an extension and offshoot of Aindra Prabhu's great efforts here of manifesting 24-hour kirtan in Sri Vrindavan Dham. All credit goes to him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Ram Roy Prabhu. As we all of us heard, Ram Roy Prabhu repeated word by word the instructions about Nam Sankirtan Aindra Prabhu gave in 2009 in Varshana when we were having a kirtan there. So if anyone is really qualified to repeat that statement, that instruction word by word, certainly he is, because he has taken to heart those instructions and carrying out Nam Sankirtan on the streets of New York City every single day throughout the year. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I would now like to request Her Grace Yashomati Mataji, Srila Prabhupada disciple. We are very fortunate to have you here with us. It's our humble request for you to please come and share your memories with all of us.
Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Aindra Prabhu. Everyone is expecting memories, but I didn't have such adhikar to be there to collect memories. I often saw Aindra Prabhu when I would visit Vrindavan. My son was in the ashram with him in the early 90s. But I felt that I didn't want to impose on him. He was brahmachari, was very strict at that time, especially with dealing with women. And I thought, what, I'm just going to go shoot the breeze, try to make friends, so I never spoke to him. And many people became staunch followers of Aindra because of his kirtan. I also didn't hear his kirtan all that much, same as everyone else, maybe. But then in 2010, someone gave me all his lectures. Have you heard his lectures? All of his lectures? How many times? I still hear his lectures every day. They changed my life. They are my life. There is no such thing as hesitancy in calling Aindra Prabhu Acharya. So many devotees in the movement. Very few are living what they preach. This is the meaning of Acharya. Aindra Prabhu was an Acharya. Yes, he taught us about doing Harinam Sankirtan. This is the yagya for this age. Do Harinam Sankirtan, but being a follower of Aindra is a lot more than dressing like Aindra and singing Aindra's rags. It's a lot more than that. Read his instructions. Read what he had to say. Hear what he had to say. Focus on love of God. Don't focus on, I'm going to play mridanga so good, for sure the girls are going to be after me. It's got nothing to do with following Aindra. I sing so nicely. Everybody's appreciating. Even if it's not focused at girls, whatever focus has, any kind of pratista is sex life. Yes, follow Aindra, do kirtan everywhere, but also follow his mood. His mood was to serve Krishna. His mood was to attain Prema Bhakti. Of course, he had Prema Bhakti, but always that was his mood. Prema Bhakti was his mood. Not to stop at making any project the goal of life. It's not a project. The project is to make me become a pure devotee. That, in a way, is a project. But other than that, so when I hear people say, oh, yes, he created 24-hour kirtan, nobody else could do it, and he did it. Yes, he did it, and that's great. But there is so much more to Aindra Prabhu than that. He's changing the world after having left the body. After having left the body, the whole world is being changed. Harinam Sankirtan is being revived. His words are still alive and his words are still going around. Some people just think that he's a good kirtanya, but still, because his word, his chanting was pure. His chanting is not material. He's changing the world. All of you want to speak to those who have met him. I have with me an offering that Atisundari Mataji wrote for Aindra yesterday. I'm staying with her at the moment. I don't know if any of you know Atisundari, but Atisundari and Giridhari Prabhu were dearmost friends of Aindra Prabhu. And they often held his birthday parties, because he's not a Vyasa Puja kind of guy. Not that he doesn't have plenty of followers or disciples, but he's not a Vyasa Puja kind of guy. Just like he's not into receiving that label, Iskon Namacharya Aindra. He's not into the title. But it doesn't change anything about the heart or what he has done for all of us and for many more to come, because it goes on. So is it okay if I read a tit from Atisundari? So she says, Dear Aindra, dear soul friend, since you didn't want to be called Guru Maharaj, I call you dear soul friend, because Guru Maharaj is a very reverential way of saying the king of my heart, the one who leads my life, from whom I get all knowledge, unto whom I surrender, or my dear soul friend who knows everything happening in my heart. Anyway, when am I writing this offering? Why am I writing this offering? Because I want to thank you for being there for me still. Because every time I start feeling like you already probably forgot about me, this fallen Kali Yuga Jiva, somebody may come from Krishna Balaram Mandir bringing Mahaprasad for you, or coming to talk about you, or as you told, you should look for signs. In my own little way, I do still Harinam Sankirtan and everything you taught me. As we may know in Prabhupada's books, is everything, and we may understand it according to our qualification. I'm just going to stop here and give you an example of... See, I've been a disciple of Srila Prabhupada since 1971. And I don't always hear what Prabhupada has to say, even if I'm hearing it, and it just somehow I don't get it. But if I hear what Srila Prabhupada has said through Aindra Prabhu, then I get it. And I think it's the case for many of us. Sometimes we limit Srila Prabhupada with things. Maybe he didn't give us so much, or sometimes the strand is there. Some people think like that. Just think about this one little thing. Srila Prabhupada told us the meaning of the Maha Mantra is, my dear Radha, my dear Krishna, please engage me in your loving service. So when we hear that, we're thinking, okay, I've got to do whatever the temple commander says. That's my service. And then we read Bhaktivinoda Thakur suggesting that maybe we should meditate on the meaning of the Maha Mantra as given by Gopal Guru Goswami, which is a lot more, my Lord, steal my heart. My Lord, enjoy me. It's a lot more detailed. But what's included in please engage me in your loving service? It's not only about sweeping the temple. It can also be sweeping in a Nikunja, can't it? That is also loving service to Radha and Krishna. So in this way, Srila Prabhupada has hidden many jewels in few words. And Aindra Prabhu was able to read these words. He was able to see through everything that Srila Prabhupada said. That's why Aindra Prabhu was able to read, he would read Srimad Bhagavatam, he would read Chaitanya Charitamrita, he would quote it, he would read it over in classes, and everybody's thinking, what is he saying? The other day, I had a lecture of Aindra Prabhu, a Bhagavatam class going on in my room, and someone walked in. He was in the middle of a class, and I didn't know which class it was. He's often, all his lectures are on loop, so I don't even know which lecture he's speaking. So the person said, who's this speaking? Prabhupada never spoke like that. So I just closed the computer to avoid further offenses. And then later I opened it, and I saw exactly where we were. Aindra had been reading a purport by Srila Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wasn't speaking, he was reading from Srila Prabhupada. But we are blind to Srila Prabhupada because we don't have the adhikar. But by hearing it from someone, one of our contemporary, who has digested everything, then we can get it. It can reach us a little better. So I'll just continue here, not to bother you with my... As we may know, in Prabhupada's books is everything, and we may understand it according to our qualification. The newcomer, as well as the Mahabhagavat, will find it useful. So in this way, what you gave me is leading me from the time I met you until now, which may be hundreds of years, but yes, hundreds of tests. Yes, it's true. As the years and tests pass, the faith gets stronger. But the hearts become softer and sweeter because it's getting ready slowly for our Istadev to reside there. One day somebody asked you, why do you do so many austerities? And you said, I don't do any austerities. I'm just doing devotional service to my Shyam. Since I was into doing austerities, I could not understand the meaning of your words. I thought, well, we're being really austere for the sake of advancement, but now somehow by your mercy I can understand. It's really for devotion that you did it. It's a different view and purpose for which Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur chanted every day 3 lakhs of Nam than anybody trying to mechanically finish their prescribed amount of rounds. You taught me this anurag, this dedication for love. It's all about the bhav, how we do things, in which mood. But of course, not that we will say, I will just chant 1 round with so much love. No, that also is cheating for our laziness. Endeavor is very important, but knowing our goal and do it with affection. Do it with affection. Then there is more chance to succeed. Not that we will try to imitate the Nitya Parishad, but to follow in their footsteps. You know that for us was not about your being famous or the best kirtanya in ISKCON, but was your sweetheart was keeping and trying to share with whomever was willing those meditations that you cherish so much in your heart. It's not a cheap thing, but it is necessary to establish our relationships with our Lords. Otherwise, where will we go? It's not apasampada or anything like that. This I learned from you, very advanced and sincere Prabhupada disciple, whose life and soul was Harinam Sankirtan, the Yuga Dharma. And again, not only that the Lord himself in his most beautiful form, whom you can taste, and the tongue, and talk to him whenever we need it, means all the time, because we're always in need of protection, of friendship, love, maintenance. I mean in real need of a real essence, because everything is in him. He can be our closest friend. Not only can he make us very peaceful in the times of distress, or happy or ecstatic, or even show us his pastimes, but he can give us pure love for himself. How amazing. Probably more amazing is how often we forget. How often we forget that we joined the Hare Krishna movement to learn to love Krishna. How often do we forget? Or how often do we remember? In that case, why should we think of anybody else in this material world as our own? Nobody should as dear as him. Harinam Prabhu. Thank you for showing me what is dedication with affection in this path of bhakti. You said one day that Krishna comes in the form of a human, so we can relate to him more easily. You see how many devotees gather to celebrate your appearance and disappearance? They are also following in your footsteps, doing Harinam Sankirtan just to please you. That is devotional service. Maybe we don't know how to please Krishna because he never appeared in front of us to tell us how to please him. But do come in form of Guru to tell us, in this case you. It is Krishna that is doing this to bring us all closer to him. How amazing. He is always so close to us, and we are spicing him out. Thank you, Krishna, for appearing always in every step we give. Thank you for appearing for me as my instructor, spiritual master, Aindra Das, and this is from Ati Sundari. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I would now like to request Her Grace Vishakha Mataji to please kindly come and share with all the devotees. Mataji has been engaged in somehow helping Aindra Prabhu, firstly in the proofreading of Aindra Prabhu's book that he was working on, which is called The Heart of Transcendental Book Distribution. I'm sure most of you know about it. And now Mataji is also giving her help in bringing about Aindra Prabhu's biography. So since a couple of years, devotees are working on putting together to bring out Aindra Prabhu's biography. Mataji is... So I would now like to kindly request her to please come and share her offering. We're also very fortunate to have His Holiness Dinubandhu Prabhu with us. So I would request Prabhuji to please come next. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Actually, I wanted to share with you something else, kind of a part of a chapter that I was asked to write for the book, but I could not find it. So instead, I decided to read something I had written some years ago, which I hope will be pleasing to Aindra Prabhu and to all of you. It's called the 24-hour Kirtan Mandal, Now and Then. The absolute truth is Sri Krishna, And loving devotion to Sri Krishna exhibited in pure love is achieved through congregational chanting of the holy name, which is the essence of all bliss. That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 197. Or, as Narottam Das Thakur puts it, the treasure of divine love in Golok Vrindavan has descended as a congregational chanting of Lord Hari's holy names. Even in former ages, when more difficult processes were recommended, the goal was always bhakti, or devotion to the Supreme Lord. In this age, the most accessible form of bhakti is Sankirtan, or congregational chanting of the holy name of God. It is the Yuga Dharma, the religion and saving grace of this age. My dear King, Shukadev Goswami told King Parikshit, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, the one good quality about it is that simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. That's from the Bhagavatam 2.3.51. Human life is especially meant for self-realization. Yet, owing to a bad educational system, people have no desire for self-realization. This is the hallmark of the age of Kali. We have short lives and we tend to be, quote, quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. And yet, each one of us, being a pure spirit soul, originally has all good qualities. All we need to do is cleanse our mind from the dirty thoughts and desires that have accumulated there over countless lifetimes. Like thick dust over a mirror, these dirty things prevent us from understanding our spiritual identity. Therefore, great saints in the devotional line strongly recommend the process of hearing and chanting to cleanse the mind and bring out our dormant good qualities. In his Mukunda Malastotra 42, the self-realized saint King Kulashekar of the Sri Sampradaya recommends Harinam in the form of both congregational chanting, Sankirtan, and individual meditation, Japa. Even Christianity and Islam recommend the chanting of the holy names of God. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar of Krishna, spread the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra throughout India. And he predicted that one day the holy names would be heard and chanted in every town and village of the entire world. His prediction came to pass in 1965 when His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a powerful disciple in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tradition, sailed to New York and began the Hare Krishna movement, which has spread to all major cities of every continent and further. Through Harinam Sankirtan, Ratha Yatra festivals, and the massive distribution of sanctified foods and books expounding the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, the Hare Krishna movement grew from strength to strength. But His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada did not just want to attract people, he wanted to keep them and turn them into lovers of God, Krishna. And the main symptom of a person in love is that he or she cannot live without speaking of the beloved. Although it is true that the Brihat Mridanga, the printing press, can be heard farther than the clay Mridanga, Prabhupada wanted the devotees to chant and dance in front of the deities every morning and evening. And he wanted us to chant 64 rounds of japa every day, although eventually he came down to 16 because we couldn't come up to the mark. And he said that everything we do must be accompanied by the chanting of the holy name. In India especially, when materialism wasn't at all as all-pervasive as in the West, Prabhupada asked the devotees to chant for longer periods of time. In Juhu, Mumbai, or Bombay rather, he told the temple president that all the devotees should sit down together for a 12-hour kirtan every Sunday, even though at that time the devotees were intensely busy working towards the completion of the Radha Rasa Bihari temple complex. And in Vrindavan, the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna, he wanted all the visiting devotees and whoever had spare time to take part in a continuous 24-hour kirtan. Things started quite harmoniously, with groups of men and women taking turns to lead the kirtans. Srimati Daivi Shakti remembers starting her shift at 1 o'clock in the morning until, in March of 1978, an all-male Namahata crew took over the 24-hour kirtan. Then in 1979, the leadership changed and there wasn't much kirtan going on at the Krishna Balaram Mandir. Then again in 1984, signs of kirtan revival appeared, only to vanish with the arrival of summer. In brief, it wasn't until Aindra Das came from New York City in 1986 that the legendary 24-hour kirtan emerged as a reality. Aindra Prabhu was born in Virginia, USA in 1953 in an artistic family. His father played bluegrass music, his mother was playing the harp, his brother the bass, and he himself took to the guitar, as well as other instruments and crafts. He happened to meet the devotees in Washington, D.C. in the summer of '73 while they were out on street Sankirtan. Aindra eagerly joined in, actually lost his shoes also, followed them back to the temple and moved in right away. A few months later, on the Nityananda Trayodasi, he was initiated into the Gaudiya Sampradaya and given the name Aindra Das by Srila Prabhupada. In retrospect, one can easily conclude that Aindra Prabhu was steadiness personified. He first began deity service in Washington, D.C. in '74, continued that service on the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, then in New York City until 1986, and since then in Vrindavan. Indeed, he left his body while preparing to cook for his deities, and he surrendered his last breath at the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, to whom he had pledged his life 36 years earlier. Aindra began leading kirtans in the Washington, D.C. temple, but after moving to New York City in 1981, he took the kirtan into the street with a small mouse amplifier out on a handcart. One godbrother, Rasatala Prabhu, went out with him daily. Later, after the devotees relocated to the present Brooklyn temple in October 1982, Aindra Prabhu got a donation from Bhavananda Prabhu, then co-GBC for New York. With that money, Aindra bought a panel box van. Using the basement of the temple as a workshop, he made all the intricate artistic designs that gradually transformed the truck into an ornate golden temple. Early in the morning, he would drive to select locations such as Broadway, Central Park, and Upper Manhattan, and sit there all day with his harmonium, kirtan party, book table, and changing bodies exhibit. In those areas, he aimed at the business industry, and they responded favorably, amazed to see the devotees seem in the same spot from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, just like they did in their offices. Impressed with the devotees' commitments, they would give donations, and some of them felt inspired to take up the life of devotion. One such person became Achyuta Das, known in ISKCON for having completed Srila Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan. Every week, Aindra Prabhu would also go to ethnic areas in Queens, such as Jackson Heights, which had a high concentration of Indians and South Indian, and Ozone Park, whose population is most the epitome of a sadhaka, always endeavoring to go the extra mile to show Krishna that he was serious about devotional service. For years, he chanted 100,000 names of God every day, and he gradually increased to 200,000. He also counseled devotees, studied the books of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, worshipped Radheshyam in the temple and his personal deities in his room, transformed the brahmachari quarters into a transcendental art gallery, scrubbed the toilets, and led the electrifying kirtans that won him a place in devotees' hearts the world over. Gradually, his eating and sleeping dwindled to almost nothing. As the soft side of his nature overtook the thunderbolt side, Krishna took him away. Aindra had proved his sincerity. The 24-hour kirtan revival began on the Ram Vijaya Dashami of 1986. That day commemorates the Vijay, victory, of Lord Ramachandra over the demon Ravana. But the Param Vijayate, the supreme victory, Lord Chaitanya declared, is Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, the loud chanting of the holy names of Krishna, because that chanting conquers not only bad qualities, but ultimately birth and death as well. Not only that, but it is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables one to fully taste the nectar we all hanker for. And so, on the auspicious day of Ram Vijay Dashami, The 24-hour kirtan started under the auspices of Aindra Prabhu, and it remained so for the next 24 hours. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas at the age of 24 and performed Sankirtan both publicly and privately for the next 24 years, Aindra Prabhu also journeyed to Vrindavan 24 years ago with the intention of dedicating his body, mind and soul to the Sankirtan movement, which he did also for a period of 24 years. It was not an overnight success. Until 10 years ago, well, maybe it's 18 years ago now, living in Vrindavan throughout the year was the most difficult affair, especially in the summer, especially on the third floor of the Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul building. The electricity would go on and off, as it still does, throughout the day and night, sometimes for hours on end, and the generator would not be switched on because the Gurukul was closed for the summer. And because even at night the water just about steamed out of the taps, there was no scope for refreshing showers. So, to muster the strength to do anything more than lying in the pool of one's own sweat required great determination. Throughout the 1980s in the ISKCON world, Sankirtan mostly meant going out selling Hong Kong paintings, at least where I was, or whatever generated the most profit. And the obedient devotees were thus engaged. So initially, Aindra Prabhu was alone, because the few rebels that joined him, now and then in Vrindavan, were not able to put up with the austerities. Not only the weather was difficult, but there was no money for maintenance. Aindra had to pay rent for his rooms at the Gurukul, pay for his Khichdi Prasadam, pay for everything he needed to maintain his and his crew's body and soul together. At one point, the temple president decided to hire professional kirtaniers to strengthen the kirtan party. But these persons were competed for name and fame, not for bhakti, and Aindra dismissed them. Purity is the force, and indeed, quality men began to feel attracted to joining Aindra's program during their visits to Vrindavan. One such person is Ram Rai Das Prabhu, a long-time friend of Aindra's early days in the New York Yatra. He has been coming every year since 1986. Younger men, especially the ISKCON-born generation, also felt themselves pulled into the orbit of Aindra's kirtans and enthusiastically contributed their musical skills and youthful vigor to the 24-hour kirtan. Perhaps the most prominent at this time is Madhava. Born in Mauritius of devotee parents, Madhava joined Aindra Prabhu in Vrindavan after finishing school and stayed with him for several years. Nowadays, based on the inspiration and training he got from Aindra, he goes all over the world singing kirtan. Other early followers of Aindra's kirtan party include Nitai and Gopinath. Another senior brahmachari, Bhagwat Puranadas, joined the kirtan full-time in the mid-90s and has stuck it out through thick and thin. I think he's here now. Yes, Hare Krishna. Gopal Das, an initiated disciple of His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami, is another prominent member of Aindra Prabhu's team. At the age of 9, little Ganashyam heard Aindra Prabhu sing and felt in his heart that, quote, "this man has love for God," unquote. And thereafter, he committed himself to serve Aindra's program to his capacity. 21 years later, or maybe 29 now, Gopal Das is managing the 24-hour kirtan and also taking the midnight shift, playing mostly the mridanga and sometimes percussion. At the turn of the millennium, many devotees came to Vrindavan from the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, and some of them joined the 24-hour kirtan. Most of them are either married or engaged to be married, but regardless of their status, they are determined to preserve and expand Aindra's kirtan legacy. Another rising figure on the Kirtan horizon is Keshava. Actually, his name is Kirtan Premi now. The youngest son of a Bengali devotee parents based at the Sri Sri Radha Rasa Bihari temple in Juhu, whose sweet but powerful voice is a balm to the ear. There is also Vrindavan Das, mridanga player par excellence, somewhere here. And Govinda, Romapat Swami's disciple, and others. Akinchana Krishnadas also sat and learned from Aindra in Vrindavan, and now he too travels and performs kirtan all over the world. Materially speaking, the 24-hour kirtan slowly went from abject poverty to relative comfort. When the responsible devotees mentioned above started trickling in, they began recording Aindra's kirtans, took them back to the West, and sold the cassettes to other devotees. And they would bring back the proceeds to Vrindavan whenever they returned. Although Aindra Prabhu was a simple sadhu, deeply immersed in his internal meditation in Vrindavan, he was also very merciful to conditioned souls, wanting them to get the great treasure of the holy name. So he did produce several cassette albums for the transcendental pleasure of the devotees. To produce music in Vrindavan is no small feat, but for the sake of authenticity, Aindra went through the ordeal, and so the sound of peacocks, parrots, and other Vrindavan living entities mingled charmingly with the sound of Aindra's enchanting songs or albums, such as Chintamani Dham, Vrindavan Mellows, and others. As Aindra Prabhu's transcendental fame grew, well-to-do devotees felt inspired to contribute to the maintenance of the 24-hour party. But Aindra was not interested in living comfortably, and whenever the occasion arose, he would give donations to the temple. The big chandeliers on the temple mandap, the decorations in the Brahmachari ashram, and the monkey-proof laundry cage on the roof were all financed by Aindra Prabhu's donations. His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj said, he, Aindra, was such a fixture in Vrindavan that one could take him for granted, assume that he would always be there. And he was always there, in the same place, doing the same thing, even looking the same. He never seemed to age. He was such a constant presence in Vrindavan, in the Krishna Balaram temple, in the 24-hour kirtans, that I, for one, never imagined what the kirtan of the temple of Vrindavan would be without him, what life would be without him. He was like the oxygen we breathe. It is always there, so we don't think about it, but it gives us life, unquote. Aindra Prabhu had the potency to stay in one place and affect the whole world. But those who travel can also affect the world. The real point is the intensity of purpose, letting go of petty, mundane attachments and focusing on our goal. This is Aindra's example and our challenge. And we can take heart from the example of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who preached vigorously in Bengal and fought against many deviant sects, but later became discouraged because the deviant groups he had fought to expose and whom he had subdued for some time were coming back again. In his despondent state, he had a dream in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him to go to Jagannath Puri and establish a Bhajan Kuti near Haridas Thakur's Samadhi and just chant the holy names there. His chanting, Mahaprabhu told him, would purify the whole world. So there is great value in sitting in one place and just chanting purely the holy names for the benefit of humanity, at least for some time every year. We request the members of our worldwide community of devotees to donate some of their time and energy to the 24-hour kirtan in Vrindavan. A few days, a few weeks, a few months, whatever you can give, please give it wholeheartedly for the spiritual upliftment of the world. We are happy to report that despite his heavy managerial responsibilities, our current temple president, His Grace Panchagoda Das, is a staunch participant in the morning and evening shifts of the 24-hour kirtan. Yad Yad Acharati Shrestas. The legacy goes on. Aindra Prabhu ki jai, Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Gora Bhaktavrinda ki jai, Gora Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you very much, Vishaka Mataji, Dinabandhu Prabhu.
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Garanjana Shalakaya
Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya-manobhistam sthapitam yena bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Saparandiyam Aradhanastrinandantai Vidam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Madhuram madhurebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam Pavanam pavanebhyopi harirnama eva kevalam. More sweet than the sweetest thing, more auspicious than the most auspicious thing, more purifying than the most purifying thing, the holy name of the Lord is everything. Alone is everything. So I never met anyone more absorbed in the holy name as Aindra Prabhu, who revived and restored the 24-hour kirtan. Prabhupada, of course, from the beginning, he wanted it. As Visakha pointed out, there were various attempts, including even hiring kirtaniyas. But that's, hired kirtaniyas means Hari Rupi, 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 Hari, dollar, dollar, Hari. But Aindra insisted on the pure name of the Lord, chanted purely for the sake of getting love of Godhead. And he inspired so many, just by sitting here in Vrindavan, he inspired people throughout the entire world to become again absorbed. As Vasaka was reading, people became, Nam Sankirtan went down, we won't discuss what went on in the name of Sankirtan, but Sankirtan means chanting. And of course nowadays we retreat and do our chanting, but we have to take it back to the streets. Retreat is not a purpose, it's a endeavor to regroup, again to attack. Now we're hiding somewhere in the mountains and doing kirtan, but that's just to restore and strengthen ourselves, to go back and take Sankirtan to the streets. That was really what Aindra Prabhu wanted. That's what our Ram Roy is doing there in New York. And I'm also hoping, wherever I go and there's a chance to go on Harinam on the streets. I was just in some far off place called Kharkiv, and every day they have a nice Harinam party through the marketplace just not far from the temple. It was so wonderful. We have to take, that was Aindra's real desire, see Harinam go back, and Sankirtan mean chanting the holy name and distributing Prabhupada's books. And I think all of these Harinam retreats, of course, have been inspired by Aindra Prabhu, but our main business is to spread the holy name to everyone. And to ourselves, become absorbed in the holy name. As that was Aindra Prabhu's whole purpose in life, was to himself become absorbed and everybody else become absorbed. And if you became inattentive while chanting, you got the sauce. If you didn't play the mridanga or kartals right, you got the sauce. Even to be absorbed in that kirtan. So today we're celebrating the glorious appearance day of Aindra Prabhu. This wonderful time to hear and recollect all of his wonderful pastimes. Visakha was saying that we can't imagine a kirtan without Aindra, but I don't see the kirtan without Aindra. Aindra is there, dancing in the hearts of all the devotees, dancing in kirtan. Somehow or other, one time we had, I can't remember if it was disappearance or appearance, the 24-hour kirtan devotees said we don't have enough room to keep the devotees here, because Aindra Prabhu's up there sending them. So it's not that Aindra's not in the kirtan, he's there in the kirtan. I listen on the radio all the time. It's so ecstatic to hear this kirtan 24 hours a day, always going on. I can feel Aindra's presence, even today in this kirtan. And our whole mission is to become completely absorbed in chanting the holy name. There's a wonderful verse, Mahaprabhu, from childhood, or from my beginning, real childhood was, of course, coming into Krishna consciousness. I heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only wrote the Shikshastakam. But my dear godbrother, Dasara Sutta Prabhu, in Nectar Books from Georgia, he's found many, many verses that Mahaprabhu has written, including in Murari Gupta's Kadacha, there's a Shivastakam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. That Mahaprabhu, he entered a temple in South India and spontaneously composed this Shivastakam. And it's been kept in Murari Gupta's Kadacha, his notebooks. And one of the verses is my favorite because it always reminds me of Aindra, who was so absorbed in the holy name. Though it's glorifying Lord Shiva, it's equally applicable to our dear Aindra Prabhu. Sri Rama Govinda Mukunda Sori Sri Krishna Narayana Vasudeva Ityadi Nama Mrita Panamata Bringadi Payakila Dukahantre. Sri Rama Govinda Mukunda Sori Sri Krishna Narayana Vasudeva Ityadi. In Sanskrit, when we say Adi, we mean etc. All these names and even more. Ityadi nama amrita panamata. The Lord Shiva, he is completely absorbed, not just chanting. He says panamata, he's absorbed in relishing. The namamrit. We saw Aindra there with this bright red hair, just relishing, squeezing out all the nectar of that holiness. Sri Rama Govinda Mukunda Sari Krishna Narayana Vasudeva Tyadi Namamrita Panamata. He is absorbed in relishing the nectar of this holy name. How? Bringadipa. Bringa means bee. He said the king of the bumblebees. Bringadipa, the king of the bumblebees. Because the bumblebees, especially, they like the nectar inside the lotus flower. We call it makarand. In fact, they go there, they go to other flowers, they go there and they just take something. But makarand, they stay there, and they stay there, drinking that. And those who've been on Prikkaman with me, you know that at night the lotus will close. He's a friend of the sun. So that lotus is going to close, he's going to suffocate. But he doesn't care. He goes on drinking that nectar, and in the morning we find him dead. So we have to become absorbed in chanting the holy name like that, completely absorbed, that even death will come before us and we'll just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is what we have to do. This is what Aindra dedicated his life. His whole life was that. The end of his life was that. He put his head at Lord Nityananda's feet and chanted the holy name and passed over the hurdle of birth and death into the eternal pastimes of Radha Shyam Sundar. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Dinabandhu Prabhu. And I would just like to mention that there is so much nectar we are getting to hear from all the devotees. But unfortunately, time is a constraint in this world. Most of us, maybe some of us know who have been to Aindra Prabhu's room, he has a very special clock in his room. And that wall clock doesn't have the hands. It is just there as a clock, but it doesn't function because it doesn't have the hours and the minutes hand, because Aindra Prabhu just didn't like, constraint of time. And whenever he would talk about, whenever he would give a class, Bhagavatam class, he would always say, damn clock, like that, because he hated to be restricted to go on with his expression. And anyhow, I request devotees now that we have about an hour or so, or maybe even lesser, that we will have to unwantingly conclude this morning session of glorification. So maybe 5-7 minutes each, so that most of the devotees can get to share and we can hear from all of them. I would now like to request Vrindavan Prabhu, because then he has to also go for his puja. After that, I want to request Bhagavad Puran Prabhu and Akinchana Krishna Prabhu to please share their offerings with all of us.
Hare Krishna. So there's many things I could say, but I'll keep it brief. Since we're running out of time, there are many other devotees who should speak also. I'll just briefly mention a few things that I noticed about Aindra Prabhu personally, in my own personal experience of practically living with him for 10 years and serving closely with him, doing kirtan with him every day on a daily basis, and not only that, but associating with him personally. Of course, he inspired so many devotees all around the world by his pure chanting of the holy name. His chanting was so pure that he could sit here in Vrindavan Dham and affect the entire planet by his pure chanting. Devotees all over the planet were inspired by him because he's chanting the holy name purely, Shuddhanam. There are many young people who I've met in different parts of the world that have told me that they were on the verge of leaving Krishna consciousness practically. These are devotees that are born in the movement. They were just in total Maya, not interested in devotional service, drifting away. But then suddenly they started listening to Aindra Prabhu's kirtan. And something clicked. And they got very inspired to take up devotional service seriously. There's one boy in Toronto who told me once, when we were there for the Ashtaprahar 2011, I think you were there, right? He told me that if it weren't for Aindra Prabhu, I would be in a bar right now. That's how powerful Aindra Prabhu's chanting is. I would be in a bar right now if it weren't for Aindra Prabhu. He was chanting the last 8 months or so of his Leela on this planet. He was chanting 2 lakhs of names every day. That's about 116 rounds. 2 lakhs. That's how much japa he was chanting every day, getting so absorbed, super absorbed in the holy name. And of course, in the earlier days of his Krishna consciousness in America, as Ram Rai Prabhu had mentioned, up to 14 hours of kirtan, Nam Sankirtan on the street every day. When he first arrived here, also several hours, 8 hours, 10 hours daily. And he also spread awareness of the importance of performing the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan, within the movement. He really, really emphasized that to everyone. Yeah. He woke us up, you could say, And we're trying to carry on his mission of Akhanda Kirtan, Akhanda Harinam Sankirtan here in Krishna Balaram Mandir. Of course, Ram Rai Prabhu is doing the NYC, New York City Harinam Sankirtan 6 hours a day for the last 7 years? 6 years. So Harinam Sankirtan is it's actually our prime devotional activity. He would always tell devotees how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur talks about the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. Deity worship, sadhu sangha, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, residing in the Dham, and Nam Sankirtan. And he would emphasize how out of these 5, Nam Sankirtan is most potent. He was also very well versed in Shastra. He could smash any misconception very easily. He would spend a lot of time and energy into doing that. Devotees who were close with him know that very well. He would just spend so much time talking to devotees, getting very, very deep into the philosophy. Sometimes he would get very heavy also. He would drill it into you, It would leave an impression, actually. When he would speak, it would leave an impression. Lasting impressions. Since we came to this point, maybe I could share one of my experiences. When I had first joined as a 14-year-old boy, first joined the 24-hour kirtan here in Vrindavan. I wasn't really so aware of, what to do and how to do it and whatnot. So Aindra Prabhu at one point, he spoke to me about the importance of being active and enthusiastic in the kirtan and not just sitting there being a half-baked cookie, as he said. He said, don't be a half-baked cookie or half-baked cake. What is the use of a half-baked cookie? Be a fully baked cookie for the pleasure of Krishna. Like that, So meaning that in the kirtan, he was telling me, we should always put our full energy in the kirtan. Whatever energy we have, we should just give it all we got. And you can see that that's what he did by his personal example. When he was doing kirtan, he was very enthusiastic. The whole body is moving, head is moving like this. He's getting others to, making sure no one falls asleep, no one else is getting lazy. Making sure everyone's chanting loudly. Even these days, sometimes you'll see devotees are playing the instruments and not chanting. So actually, when we do kirtan, we're supposed to be worshiping the holy name. The holy name is the focus. So just sitting there banging and clanging on the instruments is out of the question. Not supposed to be doing that. So he would always encourage devotees to chant in the kirtan. He would remind them again and again. On some of the recordings, you can hear that. Sometimes he'll stop and say, why is nobody chanting Hare Krishna? We're supposed to be chanting Hare Krishna here. Sankirtan means chanting Hare Krishna, everybody. Things like this. And I had the great fortune of being his personal mridanga player for about 8 years. We developed a few things like the half-speed tutal and different things which became very widely known. One time he told me that, I don't understand why some people like to do casual kirtan. This is something he actually told me. Casual kirtan means lazy, like, just kind of laying back and not really putting much energy and effort and importance into it, just kind of kicking back there. I don't know why people like to do that. This casual kirtan. I do kick-ass kirtan. I don't understand why these people like to do casual kirtan. I do kick-ass kirtan. Kick-ass kirtan meaning, and with a lot of enthusiasm. Here we have Bhakta Marcel. He joined the 24-hour kirtan recently. He's a perfect example of putting full energy into the kirtan at all times. You can follow his example. Of course, we all know that he was the best dresser of Radhashyam Sundar. He would dress every Saturday and Sunday and also on festivals. He was the best at doing that. Ananda Prabhu got trained up by him, and he's carrying on that tradition. You can see Radhashyam Sundar dressed in that same style that Aindra Prabhu dressed Radheshyam in. Shyam Sundar's chadar coming like this, usually two of them. Radharani's skirt is twisted in a certain way, sometimes with a peacock feather tilting towards Shyam Sundar, like that. He would never put the garlands and the beads on the outside of Shyam Sundar's arm, because he said, now he has to go like this. One time he told me, look at this. Now he has to go like this just to play his flute under the. It should be, within. He was explaining stuff like that. I'll just tell one story. It's quite an amazing story. It's very mysterious. To this day, still, no one really knows what happened to this rat. He had a rat in his room that was causing so much disturbance. He was eating up the tulsi that he had and doing different things, maybe passing stool here and there, messing things up. So it took Aindra Prabhu so much effort to trap the rat, and he finally did. He trapped it in one of those cages, the rat traps that we have available in Loi Bazaar. And, okay, first of all, I was in front of the Samadhi one morning in 2007. And Aindra Prabhu comes up to me all like smiling and kind of, in a jolly mood with this big, huge bag, like a tea bag with a zipper on the top. He comes over to me and he's like, hey, guess what just happened? And then he told me this story about how the rat was causing so much disturbance. And he caught the rat, he put the trap inside that bag, zipped it up. It was sealed, completely sealed. No way that it could escape. And he took that bag with the rat trap in it, jumped on a rickshaw, went over by the Yamuna. He went over by the Yamuna to release it. He wanted to release the rat there, far away. Because there's some idea that if you release a rat near to you, it could try to come back, right? So he went over by the Yamuna side, opens up the bag. There's no rat inside the trap. Completely disappeared. And he was showing me that bag. Look, there's no way that it could have escaped. There's no hole or crack or anything anywhere. It was sealed shut. So what happened? He told me that, it must be some great personality that came to check me out. Aindra Prabhu ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
Thank you so much, Vrindavan Prabhu. I would like to request everyone not to leave before we conclude this program. Towards the end of today's celebration, we will be showing a video around 2:30 p.m. And then there is prasad for everyone, so please be with us. I would now like to request Chakrina Prabhu. He's been with Aindra Prabhu in the way back in the past, in the initial days of the 24-hour Kirtan. So please, Prabhuji, we are very happy to have you with us. Thank you.
I'm not much of a speaker. I'll be brief. I served with Aindra Prabhu. I chanted, joined his 24-hour Kirtan in '99. And in 2001, I left to United States. And I just want to back up the statement by Vrindavan Das in the beginning, how Aindra's Kirtan saves from Maya. So for 17 years, I was completely down under the water in the Maya. I gave up all chanting, but all this time away from Vrindavan, I had this hope, this desire, to come back and chant again with Aindra, join his Kirtan again. And you can see I'm back here. 17 years passed and I'm here. It's really amazing, at least to me. I don't know if anybody mentioned it before, but think about it. Vrindavan, Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan is probably, at least to my knowledge, is the only place where you can do Yuga Dharma 24 hours a day. He started this yagya decades ago, and it still goes on non-stop. And I don't know of any other place where you can actually participate in this Yuga Dharma, non-stop. He was very kind to me, despite my poor qualities or lack of qualities. I don't remember him ever criticizing. And I think that's one of the qualities of pure sadhu. He wouldn't, even if he could be heavy on some points, but he would never criticize a person. It was the issue, that he would criticize. So I don't recall him ever criticizing anybody. I think that's it. Aindra Prabhu ki jai.
Thank you so much. Can I kindly request Bhagavad Puran Prabhu to please come and give his offering now.
Hare Krishna. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Satsvarupadas Goswami Namine Satsvarupa Vidamba Andeminitam Sarubhushnam Bhakti Grantanam Naipunyam Bhakti Vedanta Shikshitam Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gaura Vani Prisharane Nevishesha Sunya Vari Pasyate Adhisthane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. So my first formal encounter with His Divine Grace, Aindra Das Babaji Maharaj, or as His Holiness Dinabandhu so aptly put it, how'd it go? Kirtan, one more time? Right, Kirtan Chandra Namanami Ki was, I guess it was 1989 or so, maybe later than that. And so I went up to his room, room 89 in the Gurukul building. And in that time, he only had maybe 300 Shalagram Shilas at that time. And so I went into his room, and his room was like a dark cave. And it was all, everything was like shadows, and very, very low visibility. And everything was like, he had a temporary recording studio, which consisted of a few gadgets and not computers, but just gadgets. And he had like some foam mattress, in the middle of the room that was like vertical to catch the sound or whatever. And he was sitting on the floor, and I think it was in the winter time. I think he had a wool hat on, and I went in for an interview, and I was asking to join the 24-hour kirtan. And so he told me different things, but one of the things that I remember most is, and this is paraphrasing, he said, when we do kirtan in this 24-hour kirtan department, we start off stationary. Then we mobilize, gradually taxi, which means to move like an airplane on the ground, like that. Taxi like an airplane on the ground before takeoff. Then we take speed from idle-like motionlessness to slow incremental degrees, gradually from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4. We will start crawling, then walking fast, then jogging, then trotting, then running slowly, then running fast, then running faster, then gaining momentum, then take flight, then gaining speed, then we actually soar. Oops. And oops, here we go. So those are a few of the words he used. Like in the dictionary I just looked up, there's different words that describe what he was explaining to me, which was the technique or the format that the 24-hour kirtan department act on, such as aviate, glide, plane, soar, wing, helicopter, jet, orbit, rocket, dive, stoop, and so many other words. Let me see, here we go. Barrel, belt, blast, blaze, blow, bolt, bomb, bowl, breeze, bundle, bustle, buzz, cannonball, careen, career, chase, course, crack on, dash, drive, hurry, hasten. Just a few more. Beetle, dart, flit, scamper, scud, scuffle, stampede, streak, whiz, gallop, jog, sprint, accelerate, quicken, step out, catch up, fast forward, outpace, outrun, outstrip, overtake, arrow, beeline. Just a few more. Bug out, flee, run, hightail it. Run off, skedaddle. Okay, just a few more. Razzmatazz, yes, why not? I think I've come to the end here. And then I guess we have dematerialize, dissolve, evanescence, evaporate, fade, flee, disappear, go away, melt, sink, and vanish. His Divine Grace, Srila Aindra Prabhu Ki!
Thank you so much, Bhagavad Puran Prabhu. I would now like to request Akinchana Krishna Prabhu to please come forward. Thank you.
Om Jnanatimrandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulam Militam Yenam Tasmai Sri Gurve Namaha Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripasindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I really want to thank the devotees for organizing this program today. I think many of our speakers today have spoken very wonderfully, and I'm very grateful to you all for that. One time I was on the veranda, probably in the summertime, and Aindra just spontaneously said to me, "They hardly expect you to become perfect." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes, they hardly expect you to come perfect. They just want to see how hard you're willing to try." I had a friend named Vaikuntha who was staying in the Brahmachari ashram, and he was a young man, and he was not feeling so fixed in his Brahmachari ashram. And so he went to Aindra Prabhu for some advice. And he said, "Aindra Prabhu, I'm not sure what to do with my life. Maybe I should stay in the Brahmachari ashram. Maybe I should get married. Maybe I should continue my education." Aindra Prabhu said, "I know what you should do with your life. Why don't you make a garden for Radha Shama Sundar? Radha Shama Sundar need a garden." Sometimes people think that devotional service is about what they want to do. In the year 2002, there was some conflict between India and Pakistan, and it was like a big story in the international news that India and Pakistan are two nuclear powers, and they are on the verge of war. And so I was staying in the ashram at that time, and some of my family were writing me letters and saying, "Please leave India. It is very dangerous. There may be a war between India and Pakistan." And so I went to Aindra Prabhu and I said, "Aindra Prabhu, my family are writing to me with some concern, saying that I should leave India." And Aindra Prabhu's response was, well, if your friends and family are concerned that you may die, then they should be encouraging you to stay here in Vrindavan Dham so that you can die here in Vrindavan Dham. Once a devotee asked Aindra Prabhu, how can we remember Vrindavan Dham when we are outside of Vrindavan Dham? And so Aindra started his answer by saying, there's a beautiful book by Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati called Vrindavan Mahimamrita. And in that book are many amazing glorifications of Vrindavan Dham. But then he hesitated and he asked that young devotee, wait, have you read all of Srila Prabhupada's books? And the devotee hesitated a little bit. Well, and Aindra said, what kind of nonsense are you? What are you doing wasting your time in this ISKCON movement? I read all of Srila Prabhupada's books within the first 4 years of my being in this movement. That includes all of the small books and all of the Back to Godhead magazines. There was a devotee on the Kirtan party that was making a recording of his Kirtan, and Aindra one day came in very concerned and he asked that person, are there ladies on the recording that you've made of the Kirtan? I've heard that you're recording a Kirtan album with ladies on it also. And the devotee said, no, that's not true. Aindra said, good, I really don't want any recordings to be distributed that represent our 24th Kirtan department with men and ladies singing together. Aindra said that in Mahaprabhu's time, the ladies would have their Kirtan party and the men would have their Kirtan party. But they would not mix and have a group of men and ladies at the same time, because that will tend to create an unchaste atmosphere. Once I was in a car with Aindra Prabhu. Someone was driving us to a program, and that person started playing a lecture of Srila Prabhupada. And within the first minute or two of that lecture, or even less, maybe within the first couple of sentences of Srila Prabhupada speaking, Aindra immediately said, "Oh, I love this lecture. This is the lecture where Prabhupada says such and such and such and such." And it impressed upon me that Aindra Prabhu had heard so thoroughly from Srila Prabhupada that just by hearing the first one or two lines of a lecture recording from Srila Prabhupada, he remembered the lecture. Once a devotee came to Aindra Prabhu, an older devotee, said, "Sometimes the younger devotees want to follow you, Aindra Prabhu, and they say, we don't prefer to do much japa or any other devotional service. We just like to do kirtan like Aindra Prabhu. We're following Aindra Prabhu." And Aindra's answer was, "You know me better than that. I never preach such nonsense. I'm chanting 116 rounds every day. If someone wants to follow me, at least they can chant their 16 rounds." Okay. Aindra Prabhu told us that Brahman means one who chants one round of japa in 4 minutes. He told us that he was chanting a round in something like 3.5 minutes. I asked him.
He said that anyone can chant 64 rounds in 6 hours.
I think, anyway, thank you. So I asked him, can you demonstrate what that looks like? And he didn't do that. But then the next day, usually he would chant, I think he would chant his japa in the beginning part of the day. His room would be closed. No one would really be interacting with him for the first half of the day at least, maybe until the afternoon. But at one point, which was kind of a rare thing, he in the morning, he just kind of popped out of his room. I think he needed to throw something in the trash bin that was on the veranda. And he popped out of the room and he was chanting his japa, and he was just kind of mouthing the Mahamantra very quickly. And he saw me and acknowledged me and gave me a big giant smile because he had kind of demonstrated how he was chanting his japa. He also told us that he had read something in Shastra, maybe in Hari Bhakti Vilas, that if one will chant japa with the thumb and the middle finger, with, you know, when one's japa bead is between the thumb and the middle finger, in the middle portion of one's finger, which is maybe like the general way that we all chant japa, that the Shastra says that a person that will chant their japa in that style, that person will attain perfection. And he said, but that he had also read that if one will chant with the thumb and the ring finger, that person will attain bhakti. And so for myself, I'm not entirely clear that there is a big distinction there, because for us the perfection is bhakti. So whether it's perfection or bhakti, but Aindra was saying that sometimes he would chant with his thumb and his ring finger, although sometimes he felt that it was a little uncomfortable, so he would switch back to the middle finger. But just as a way of, I don't know, creating a variety in his spiritual life. There's many stories I can tell, and there's a short thing that I want to read as well. Just I was remembering, at one point I had spent a period here, and I somehow within the last few days, there was one night where I think I just spent the whole night in Aindra's room, and he was speaking to me and, you know, very kindly offering his wonderful association. And at one point, you know, understanding that I was going to leave in a couple of days, he just looked at me very emotionally and he said, "How can you leave? You belong here now." So the last thing that I wanted to read, you know, every time we do this, I try to think of a few anecdotal stories. I could think of a lot more, but we have so less time. At one point, we interviewed Aindra Prabhu on the topic of kirtan, and there is a, we did that interview in the spring of 2009. That interview has been transcribed and edited and published online, and even it's published in, you know, there's a small green book called Aindra Prabhu that you can maybe get at the bookstall. When I approached Aindra Prabhu to do that interview, I really wasn't sure how he would react. I think one of the things that was so you know, relishable about Aindra's association is that he was extremely unpredictable. You never really knew what he was going to say, and that made his association very, like, kind of electric and inspiring. And honestly, I thought when I was going to ask him for an interview that he would just, like, make a joke or be sarcastic or send me away. But it was actually the complete opposite. He took it very, very seriously, and he sat down with me for 2 consecutive nights and spent several hours with me each night. The recordings that we made are also in existence, if anyone is interested. And so the point was that interview would be published in a book, and Aindra was actually conscious that I was working on a book that would include that interview, and he was very interested that interview would be presented in a very dynamic way. And he was even talking about, editing it in many ways. And at one point, he called me into his room, and this was in 2010, not long before he passed away. And he said that he wanted to give me something unique that he had not already spoken about in the book that he was planning to publish. He wanted there to be something fresh that could be published in our book. And so he read me at that time a few lines that he had composed, which offered a meaning of the Maha Mantra, like a meditation of the Maha Mantra. When he read it, at the time, and I still feel it's something very deep, maybe something esoteric, something a little intimate, but something very profound, and really shows, the beautiful and amazing, exalted Krishna consciousness of Aindra Prabhu. So he had read that to me at one point, and then when he passed away, I never had a copy of it, but some years later, I was given access to a hard drive that was recovered or copied from Aindra's computer, and looking through the files there, I actually managed to find it again. And so I was thinking it's something that I could read to the devotees now. So this is a meaning of the Maha Mantra that Aindra composed, and it's never been published anywhere before. Would you like to hear it? The resplendent personality of the holy name, Radha, Hare, compassionately folds me into her bosom, besprinkling the kumkum from her breast onto the lotus of my heart, to gracefully confer upon this aspiring maidservant the adhikar to passionately kiss, embrace, and intimately satisfy the holy name of her all-enchanting lover, Lord Gopi Priya, Krishna. Thus, under her auspices and for her absolute pleasure, I enthusiastically sing the thunderous Sankirtan of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So that was a little deep. We may want to read that a few more times, another time, to get the import there. It just reminds me of another small anecdote. Something Aindra Prabhu spoke to me after one of his kirtans, also very shortly before he passed away. He told me a very beautiful comment. He said, for me, brahmacharya is a question of chastity. He said, just like, and then he said, everybody has the desire for kisses and embraces. Everybody desires that. That's a natural desire that everybody has, for kisses and embraces. But just like in the varnashram social system, when a man and woman are married, it will only be appropriate for those people to express such kind of desires within the context of that religious relationship. If someone will express such desires for kisses and embraces outside of that relationship, then that will be a social disturbance, and that will be a sinful activity, and that will not be an appropriate activity. So for me, Aindra Prabhu said, brahmacharya means the same thing. I'm in a relationship with Krishna, and so I will only express such desires in my relationship with Krishna. I think we will leave it there. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Aindra Prabhu Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Attention Krishna Prabhu. I would now like to request Charles Prabhu to please. Also, Charles Prabhu does not require any introduction. His name is like becoming synonymous to Vrindavan. And Aindra Prabhu used to lovingly call him Charnamrita Das, also a very close friend of Aindra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Vansha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Last night I was reading a translation of a song written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. He's describing a night in Shiva Sangan on the night of Ekadashi. Mahaprabhu is surrounded by his eternal associate, is dancing. Everyone is relishing very supreme ras. And when at the end of the song, Vrindavan Das is praying to the listener that please make your heart Shiva Sangan. So I was thinking how I can connect this with Aindra Prabhu, because that touched me, that Vrindavan Das Thakur is asking all of us to make our heart like Shiva Sangan. Lord Chaitanya, he manifested this pastime in Shiva Sangan house. I think it was a private affair among his eternal associate for 1 year. Then he decided to take that kirtan ras out in the street. So to me it appeared that there were so many moods of ecstasy that Mahaprabhu was relishing in private with his associate. So it must have been like the Ras Lila. At some point it was like a Ras Lila. And taking this kirtan mood in the street was inviting others to join. The people of Navadvip, they would join into that Ras Lila. Srila Prabhupada also has mentioned in one introduction, I don't remember which book it was, but he has said that the goal of this Krishna conscious movement is to invite everyone in the Ras Lila of Krishna. So this is to invite the conditioned soul into the eternal Leelas, particularly this topmost Leela of the Ras Leela. And then immediately I remember that this Vrindavan where we are sitting now, this is supposed to be the very place where this Maharas happened when other than the eternal gopis got an opportunity to enter into the Ras Leela pastime of Krishna. And this is why this place of Vrindavan is so famous. This is why deities have been established here. The Yamuna used to enclose like an island this place. The whole place is eternally like a platform, a stage platform for the Ras Leela. And you have even a particular place. I like to speak about this place because Nidivan is a place where, after the exhaustion of dancing and refreshment by bathing in Yamuna, Radha and Krishna, they go in a kunj and they have their very intimate pastime there. And eventually, they fall asleep, both of them. So this is a very short pastime, but Radha and Krishna, they actually fall asleep and it is only to experience their transcendental dreams. And the dream that Radharani experienced every night while sleeping here in Vrindavan, it has been recorded and explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. It is called Swapna Vilas. In that dream, Radharani sees a young Brahmana boy having Sankirtan with his associates, young also, near a river. So she's amazed because this boy is attracting her, so it must be Krishna. And this river resembles very much the Yamuna River, but it's not the Yamuna River. And that young Brahmana boy is chanting the name of Krishna, and Radharani can feel that this is her singing, this is her calling, but at the same time this boy is resembling too much Krishna in a golden form. So she awakened from her dream, and then she asked question to Krishna. And Krishna gives the answer through his Kaustuba jewel, and there Radharani understands all the Navadvip Lila, which is a non-separate Lila within the Krishna Lila. You cannot separate, and this is an explanation why Vrindavan and Navadvip, they are not different, because Navadvip is like a secret chamber within Vrindavan Lila. Some Sampradaya, they will not have access to that special chamber, but the follower of Gaurasundar, the follower of Lord Chaitanya, they have access into that very intimate chamber. Even Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jayavadharma, he mentioned that those devotees who will be equally attached to the Krishna Lila as well as the Gaur Lila, they will obtain two separate bodies, one in the Krishna Lila and one in the Gaur Lila, who go on simultaneously. So here we understand that the Gaur Lila within the Krishna Lila is only like a dream, and it's fulfilling Krishna's, you have heard about this, Krishna's 3 unfulfilled desires, so he fulfilled them during that dreaming Lila. And now to come back to Aindra Prabhu, this is also, Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying, make your heart Shiva Sangan, because this is the preparation before taking out Harinam in the street. One has to release Nam. One has to be first releasing, that is Madhurya, then distributing, that is Odarya. So Krishna is doing both things. Radha and Krishna are doing both things. And and Aindra Prabhu used to say that the best Goshtyanandi, that means one who preaches, is a Bhajananandi who preaches. Someone who has tasted the nectar of the holy name, only he can impress on others about the necessity of and the value of chanting the holy name. So it's not like Prabhupada is very happy that we distribute his books, but what about if someone is asking, oh, you are offering me a book, have you read the book? And if the person says, oh, sorry, I had no time to read the book, I'm just busy. So Prabhupada would not be so pleased. That person might think that, oh, he's just doing some selling business, maybe he's not selling a good product. So, but anyway, he's trying to make some profit out of it. So he's just trying to sell. So we should try to, because purity is the force, and because Prabhupada also said that if one enter deep into the ocean of Bhakti Ras, it will be very helpful for his preaching. So one should necessarily, like Aindra Prabhu, perform bhajan first, and as a side by side also distribute. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am a gardener. In my garden I have many fruits. I have so many fruits I can't even eat them all by myself. And also I like to be the tree myself, that tree who gives the fruit. So I'm asking everyone to distribute those fruits of love of God. And the distribution starts here in Navadvip, here in Vrindavan. And I just wanted to also again precise that this particular Harinam Sankirtan that Lord Chaitanya has given in his incarnation just after Krishna, incarnating as Krishna, is not an ordinary Yuga Dharma Nam that is being propagated every Kali Yuga, every Chatur Yuga. That Harinam, like it has been said, it is Golokera Premadana, Harinam Sankirtan. So this Harinam is the Harinam of Golok, who spread particularly the 4 mellows of Vraja. And Advaita Acharya only saw Krishna himself as the only person who could propagate these moods of Raj through the process of Raganuga Bhakti. So this Harinam, Prem Nam Sankirtan, is actually the main instrument of Raganuga Bhakti that Lord Chaitanya has devised to propagate Raganuga Bhakti in this world, and also through the Krishna consciousness movement, started with Srila Prabhupada. And so Srila Prabhupada wants all of us to try to anchor after developing also Shiva Sanghan in our own heart. He wanted to manifest Shiva Sanghan in the temple room in the form of a 24-hour kirtan. And Aindra Prabhu, I think he has done his best to fulfill that desire. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Charles Prabhu. In just a short while now, we are showing a video about Aindra Prabhu. So just when we prepare to show, I will quickly share a short story with you about Aindra Prabhu, and then we can all see this video. Okay, everyone. In just a short while now, we are showing a video. Everyone can be seated, please. Please be seated. It'll just take us just a minute or two, and then we can all see this video. I want to share with you, while we get ready, 1 or 2 quick short stories about Aindra Prabhu. We heard from many devotees. Yashomati Mataji was mentioning, and many other devotees were mentioning, that Aindra Prabhu is not just about singing nice tunes or just a kirtaniya. If we really want to follow Aindra Prabhu, then we have to follow his mood. One time, Aindra Prabhu, he came down from his room to do his evening shift of the kirtan, and one devotee was singing Aindra Prabhu's melody. So Aindra Prabhu just stood behind the pillar, and he was just hearing this devotee sing his melody. And once he finished, Aindra Prabhu came close to him and just took him very close, and he said, "You can copy my tunes, but you cannot copy my consciousness." You know, we have to go deep in understanding these statements. He just said it lovingly, but we have to try and really understand what Aindra Prabhu is saying through all these things. He wants us to really follow Srila Prabhupada and follow him by his own example. maybe there's just another minute, I'd like to share one more short story so you will know some other aspects about Aindra Prabhu. One time Aindra Prabhu was to go, which is rarely, he would even step out of Krishna Balram Mandir, only if he had some work to get some things for his deity service, etc. So one time he was going to Loi Bazaar, so there was another visiting devotee, he was with him. So he said, Prabhuji, can I accompany you? So Aindra Prabhu said, sure, why not? Please come along. So they went to Loi Bazaar and Aindra Prabhu finished buying few things that he wanted to buy for his deities. So this devotee said, Prabhuji, maybe you can carry on. I just have to pick up 1 or 2 books from the bookstall. They give all these transcendental books. So I said, I have to pick up 1 or 2 books. I'll join you later. Aindra Prabhu said, no, I can wait for you. I'll come along with you. Maybe I'll also glance through some of the books there. So then this devotee is, looking for the books that he wanted to pick up. And then Aindra Prabhu is also glancing through some other things. And then Aindra Prabhu also picked up one book. So this devotee was very, very keen to know that which is the book Aindra Prabhu has picked up. He wanted to know that, which is the book that Aindra Prabhu is like that he wanted to pick up. So he said, Prabhuji, if you don't mind, can I ask you which is the book that you have picked up? So Aindra Prabhu hesitatingly, he said, okay, take a look. So he said, you won't understand. The book read, the title was Different Hairstyles for Women. Aindra Prabhu said, you won't understand. This is for my next life. We have to understand, I don't know, Aindra Prabhu, he was just meditating on his services to Radha and Krishna. He was always meditating how in his Swarup Avesh, how in his Manjari form, his Gopi form, he will be serving Srimati Radhika Rani. So we cannot try to imitate great personalities just by few things that we see on the outside. We have to go deep and see what their life is all about, as we heard from so many devotees. He was every day chanting so many rounds, and not only, like somebody can say, I know devotees who are doing 2 lakh or 3 lakh Nam every day, but then he was doing 5 to 6 hours of deity worship every day. And then he was doing Nam Sankirtan every day. And then he was speaking to devotees, doing Krishna Katha 3 to 4 hours in the evening every day. And then he was reading all these Goswami literatures and hearing so much Krishna Katha. So this is how we have to take inspiration. So not taking much of your time now, let us watch this video, and then there is Pushpanjali and Prasad for everyone. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
inspiration for, this is one of the inspirations, aside from the fact that when I joined the movement, I would hitchhike 60 miles in from the countryside where my father's farm was to Washington, D.C. And just to join up with their, Nagar Kirtan party in the city. And then I would go along with them, chanting, playing my flute, and follow them back to the temple. And then they would have prasad there, breakfast prasad. They would go out for an hour in the morning, right after Bhagavatam class. They would give the Matajis, a couple of Matajis, were cooking breakfast in the kitchen, time to prepare the breakfast offering. And then, so we would go out, say like between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. When people started coming into the city to their work, we would go down to the main business district. Some of this may be superfluous, but because we would go out for an hour, walk from the temple down to the main business district, because at that time our temple was on Q Street, which was in the, a very kind of hip part of the city, above Georgetown, DuPont Circle area, which was a very hip area. And but we would walk from the temple down to K Street Mall, which was the main business district of Washington, and then walk back up to the temple. So we would do an hour's kirtan out on the streets, just before breakfast was on. Then we would take breakfast, and then by 10 o'clock, we were out on the streets again. And usually we would go to Georgetown, or sometimes down to the Smithsonian Mall, in between the Washington Monument and the Capitol Building. And we'd do kirtan there. There would be like, 19 of us or so. At least 15. There were about 20 devotees in the temple at that time. One devotee would stay back. One or two devotees would stay back. The rest of us would go out. And we would go out in shaved head with tilak and devotional clothes. So that was our program from 10 o'clock till around, say, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. We'd go out for like at least 12, 14 hours in a day. So when I joined the movement, kirtan was what it was all about. Performing Harinam Sankirtan and distributing books and passing out feast invitation cards side by side with the Harinam Sankirtan party. And it was great. It was very inspirational. I experienced the practical demonstration of the life of all the transcendental knowledge in the books. When Srila Prabhupada came to Washington in 1976, we would go out on the morning walk, and then Prabhupada would come back to his quarters. This was in Potomac, Maryland. That was after we moved out of the city, Potomac, small farm, whatever you want to call it, country estate, semi-country estate. So one morning, somehow or other, there were other devotees there. Vipina Purandara was there, and I forget the others who were there. And they were like, mostly the kirtan, the main kirtaniyas in the temple that time. But somehow or other, a mridanga was pushed into my hand, and I was told to lead the kirtan. And it seemed like maybe there was nobody else to do it or something. But so I had the mridanga in my hands, and I was playing in my simple way the best I could, which was more like the way Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj would play the mridanga, in a more simple kind of way, but effective way. And I was walking alongside Srila Prabhupada, probably around a foot and a half away from him, right by his side, chanting Hare Krishna, very happily, chanting Hare Krishna, very happy to be chanting Hare Krishna and performing kirtan, with Srila Prabhupada, right there with me, as we're walking along, Srila Prabhupada turns to me. He kind of like lifts his head in his typical regal Srila Prabhupada way, and looks kind of like down at me, even though, because he was lifting his head because I was a little taller than him. Srila Prabhupada was surprisingly short. When I first saw Srila Prabhupada, I was shocked. So, he kind of lifted his head up and was it was almost as if he was looking down his nose, at me, looking up at me. But at the same time, he was, kind of like tilting his head in that kind of Bengali Indian fashion. And he says to me, with a very positive glance of approval, he says to me, the only word that he ever said to me directly, one word, while I'm leading the kirtan, he says, Jai. So, and that's the only word he said to me in my whole life, Krishna conscious life. But that one word carried a lot of potency with it. Carried a lot of, let's say, inspiration. This is where Aindra Das starts redirecting his energies toward Harinam Sankirtan. And that's what I started doing, going out every day for no less than 8 hours a day, rain or shine, with or without anybody. I didn't care. If someone was willing to come and help, then Gora, hallelujah. And if they weren't willing to come and help, then Gora, hallelujah. Hari Hari Bo. And there were many days when many devotees would come out to help, and many days when next to nobody would come out to help. But I would be out there every day for 8 to 10 hours daily, minimum. I did that in Chicago, and then we would go to certain malls and areas. But then I started doing it full steam ahead in New York from about 1981.
till 1986 when I decided to pack up my marbles and come to Vrindavan and start the 24-hour kirtan, because there was no 24-hour kirtan in the temple, one of the two temples that Prabhupada instructed that there must be 24-hour kirtan.
I'm very grateful to all of you for helping. And I pray that Radharani and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, my Sachi Sutta, will recognize you for helping me. Whatever little encouragement, whatever little assistance, but real helping means chanting as loud as possible in the kirtans. Not just sitting there looking pretty. You have to chant loudly and really cry out to Radharani and Krishna. In the mood of helping each other cry out for Radharani and Krishna. That's para upakara. And that's Brajbasi. Without para upakara, there's no Brajbasi. Brajbasi means para upakara, para dukkha dukhi.